Chapter 89. Hillard smiled and said, "Arc-Light, you are wrong this time. You don't have to beat around the bush. I did know him before, and so did Kitty. He is a magician of the same origin of ice and fire. He is very talented in magic, and has reached the realm of a great magician at a young age. As for the light magic he used, it is like you said. It is very likely that he used a magic scroll. However, even with my spiritual power, I didn't feel too much spiritual fluctuation when he used magic. If he used a scroll, his movements seemed to be too subtle." Arc-Light smiled and said, "It's good that you know each other. Old She, are you familiar with him? You know that my Northeast Army lacks mages the most. Apart from the Central Army, which is directly recruited by the state, the other armies all recruit mages on their own. The Central Army's Mage Legion is really enviable. That old rogue's appeal is very strong. Now I only have about 20 mages on my side, and only one archmage. Their strength is uneven. If possible, I hope to recruit more mages into the Legion, and we can discuss the benefit. Do you think you can help me with this?" Hillard glared at him and said, "Help you? Stop dreaming. I am not familiar with Nian Bing at all. Also, don't forget that he is a chef. If you have the ability, go and recruit him yourself. However, I don't care who you recruit, but don't think about us white people. We summoners will never join any country's army." Arc-Light smiled and said, "You don't have to be so heartless. After all, we are friends. You have so many people, how good would it be if you are willing to join the army?" Report. A loud shout came from outside the carriage. Arc-Light's face became serious and said, "Speak." Reporting to Marshall, there is a group of people outside the city. It is said that they are from the Ice Moon Empire, who came to our country to participate in the new magician competition. There are more than 20 of them, including guards. It is said that they are led by the 7th prince of the Ice Moon Empire, Yen Feng. Are they allowed to enter our country? Arc-Light hesitated and said, "They can enter our country. However, ask them to show their participation documents, and then let them enter the city. Send our men to spy on them secretly. If they do anything unusual, report to me immediately." "Yes, Lord Marshal." Kitty had fallen asleep while leaning against her father. Hillard looked at the arc of light and said, "Is the 5 Nations New Mages competition about to start again? Why is it that the Prince of the Ice Moon Empire escorts the contestants?" Arc-Light shook his head and said, "I don't want to invite Chu. According to our information, the 7th Prince of the Ice Moon Empire has never been favored. He is obsessed with martial arts and is said to be very handsome." Seeing the faint evil aura on Arc-Light's face, Hillard shook his head helplessly. He said, "You." She couldn't change this bad habit of hers. She even had to think about other people's princes. "Arc-Light, you're not young anymore. Shouldn't you find a woman and start a family?" Arc-Light said helplessly, "Old She, you also know that I have no interest in women. Sigh, why am I a man? I don't think I'll be able to change my sexual orientation for the rest of my life. You don't have to persuade me. I'm not the only child in our family. My parents have already given up on me. Well, if I have the chance, I want to meet this 7th prince. If only he was as handsome as Nian Bing. However, Nian Bing is not my style. That kind of handsome young man is the favorite of girls. I like manly men the most." Okay. If you continue, I'm going to throw up. You're the famous Nanjuhua. It's really unbearable to be with you. I'm warning you, don't show such a lewd expression in front of my daughter in the future. Otherwise, I'll make it so that you can't even get a man." Hillard looked at the arc of light with disgust and reprimanded him angrily. Arc-Light snorted and said gently and evilly, "Old She, I'm afraid that other than His Majesty, you're the only one who dares to call me Nanjuhua in front of me." Hillard rolled his eyes and said, "You don't have to threaten me. When you're strong enough to reach the level of God tier, you can find me for revenge. Don't forget that you lost to me a few times." Arc-Light said dejectedly, Okay, I'll admit defeat. Damn it, other than that perverted ice goddess priestess, you're the only one on the continent that I really admire. I, Arclight, have lived for 38 years and I lost the most miserably when I competed with you. Your spiritual magic is too perverted. Coupled with your dragon summoning technique, who can compete with you? If you have the ability, then go and get a woman with my ice goddess priestess. I heard that she's still an old virgin. If you can get her, I, Arclight, will be willing to do anything for you. Maybe it was because Arclight's voice was a little louder. Kitty woke up from her sleep. Little snake, what are you doing? Getting a girlfriend? Who do you want to get a girlfriend with? Arclight was suddenly speechless by Kitty's question. He hurriedly covered it up and said, Nothing, nothing. I just told your father that someone from the Ice Moon Empire came to Huarong to participate in the new magician competition. Hearing this, Kitty's eyes lit up. A magician competition? I want to participate too. Dad, let me participate, okay? Hillard frowned and said, Kitty, don't mess around. That's not something you can participate in. You have to represent the country. Also, do you think this is child's play? With your current level, you can't even compare to a grand magician. You still want to participate in the magician competition? After the finals of the Tianhua Dragon Culinary Competition is over, you'll come home with me and continue to practice your magic. When you have some achievements, I'll consider whether to bring you out to play. You little girl, you're just too curious. As he said that, he glared at Arclight. Outside Taru City, after showing their credentials for the competition, a group of 20 people from the Ice Moon Empire entered Taru City in 3 carriages. At the front of the group was a tall white horse. Yen Feng, who was wearing silver armor, looked very handsome riding on the horse. His face was still emitting a cold aura. His expression was very calm and there was no emotion in his eyes. Behind him, there were 6 fully armed warriors and 3 carriages. There were also 10 guards around the carriages. The group entered the city in a grandiose manner. When he first entered Taru City, Yen Feng was surprised to find that this seemingly bustling city didn't have as many people as he imagined. Looking around, there were very few people on the street. Even the shops on both sides of the road were mostly closed. Men, why is Taru City so quiet? A knight hurriedly urged his horse forward. He respectfully said, Your Highness, I'll go and investigate. Our country has a secret in here. For safety reasons, we'll stay there. As long as we pass through Taru Square, we'll arrive at the inn very quickly. Yen Feng nodded and said, Go and investigate first. See if there's any situation and quickly report back. Yes, Your Highness. Your Highness. The knight replied and hurried off. Not long after, the knight quickly returned. Seeing Yen Feng's questioning gaze, he hurriedly said, Your Highness, it's like this. Taru City is holding some dragon culinary competition. The finals are next day, so most of the people have gone to Taru Square to watch the competition. Now there's a sea of people there. I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to pass through. Your Highness, you see. Yen Feng looked back at the carriage behind him and said indifferently, We'll go and take a look. We'll temporarily rest outside Taru Square. After the competition is over, we'll pass through and find a place to stay. Asan, you two go and buy some clean and fresh food for Miss Bingyun and the priest. We'll gather at Taru Square. Yes. The 2 knights flew away. Yen Feng jumped down from his horse and walked to the second carriage. He said, Miss Bingyun, there's an important meeting in Taru City today. We may be late for a while before we can reach the accommodation. You can rest in the carriage for the time being. A heavenly voice sounded in the carriage, Everything will be decided by Your Highness. Bingyun is well in the carriage. The voice coming from the carriage was so beautiful and moving. No music could compare to such a beautiful voice. Unfortunately, this voice was like ice that had been frozen for 10,000 years. When it entered one's ears, it made one shiver. It was as if the person speaking had no emotions at all. Yen Feng furrowed his brows. He had no interest in women to begin with. In addition, this Lady Bingyun was even colder than him. Along the way, although he was in charge of escorting, the number of times he conversed with this Lady Bingyun was no more than 10. Every time, it was at most 3 sentences. He had already gotten used to it. Getting back on the horse, under Yen Feng's lead, the group of horses headed towards Taru Square. Other than simply eating, Nian Bing had been in a half-meditative state during the rest between the first and second matches. Finally, it was time for the second match. Nian Bing slowly opened his eyes and realized that little Tian was standing next to him. He stood up and looked at little Tian. "It's almost time, right?" Little Tian nodded and said, "The same luck won't befall you again. This time, I'll let you see absolute strength. The biggest reward for me in this competition is probably seeing your Earth Dragon Centipede's dance blade technique. I'll also let you see a good show in the second round." Nian Bing smiled. "Little Tian, do you know? If you can beat me, it'll be a good thing for me." After saying that, he walked out of the resting area. "Good thing?" Little Tian frowned. After a while, he muttered to himself, "Victory makes people proud. Defeat makes people improve." Maybe that's what he meant. So, losing in the first round is a good thing for me? Nian Bing, have you never lost before? I haven't either. Let's have a good competition today, and see who will be the final victor. Momo walked past little Tian and glanced at him. She smiled and said, "Don't be too stubborn. You're just too competitive." Nian Bing is right. Maybe losing is a good thing. Little Tian smiled. "I understand. However, losing is built on the foundation of using all my strength. If I can't win even after using all my strength, then I'll accept defeat. Let's see if Nian Bing has the ability to do so. Let's go. It's almost time." Nian Bing calmly stepped on the rotating platform and came to his kitchen. Suddenly, a familiar figure broke the peace in his heart. From afar, that person was sitting on a tall horse. His upper body was straight and he emitted a cold aura. It's him. Why did he come to the Huarong Empire? Nian Bing didn't have a bad impression of Yen Feng. However, he couldn't accept Yen Feng's strange hobbies. When Nian Bing saw Yen Feng naturally saw him on the platform. A rare smile appeared on his face. "Nian Bing, when I heard you were a chef, I didn't dare to believe it. It seems like it's true. Nian Bing, I haven't seen you in half a year. You seem to have become more handsome." When he said this, the cold expression on his face gradually melted. He looked at Nian Bing with a gentler gaze. Luckily, he was quite far away and Nian Bing couldn't see his expression. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in the mood to continue the competition. However, although Nian Bing didn't see Yen Feng's expression clearly, he saw the 3 carriages behind him. There was something on the carriages that he was all too familiar with. It was the symbol of the ice flower. In the entire Yangon continent, only the Ice God Tower would use this symbol. Strong hatred instantly filled Nian Bing's heart. The kind and sad faces of his parents kept appearing in his mind. The people in the Ice God Tower were actually the Ice God's companions, who would be in the 3 carriages. At this moment, the carriage in the middle opened a gap. A clear and cold gaze instantly pierced through the distance of nearly a kilometer and met Nian Bing's eyes. Nian Bing's body shook. His spiritual energy fluctuated quickly. Although the cold pressure was a kilometer away, it didn't seem to weaken at all. Nian Bing only felt a chill in his heart. He hurriedly used his spiritual energy to resist the huge pressure. His expression changed slightly, but soon returned to normal. He lowered his head, no longer meeting the cold gaze. He was thinking about who was in the carriage. At this moment, his mood had stabilized. He could feel that the person in the carriage wasn't his archenemy, the priest of the ice goddess. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to withstand the spiritual pressure. After all, the priest of the ice goddess was a god-tier master. However, the person in the carriage gave him an unusually cold feeling. Although his aura wasn't as strong as the priest of the ice goddess, it was very similar. Who could come together with the seventh prince, Yen Feng? Alright, after the first round in the morning, Chef Nian Bing is temporarily at the top of the list with 10 stars. We will immediately begin the second round of the test. This time, we will test each chef in turn. We have thought of all the questions in advance. There will be no similarities, so it will be absolutely fair. The drawing of lots will be based on the results of the first round. It will start in reverse order. Hua Fatso's words woke Nian Bing up from his thoughts. He was still in the middle of the competition. Everything could wait until the end of the competition. However, with the people of the Ice God Tower here, it seemed that he couldn't use his morning dew dagger. The competition will be held in reverse order? That meant that he was the last one. Little Tian and Momo were in front of him. At this time, the judges had already walked up to the high platform. Demon General Arclight held a wooden box in his hands and walked in front of the chef, who got 10th place in the morning's competition. That chef searched in the box for a long time before taking out a lot. Hua Fatso took the lot and showed the seal on the lot to the audience. Only then did he open the lot and say loudly, "This lot requires the chef who draws the lot to make a soup with mutton. No ingredients are allowed in the soup. The soup must be white in color at the end. The time limit is 1 hour." After hearing the question, that chef immediately moved and ran to the center of the rotating table to take out the mutton. After hearing the question, that chef immediately moved and ran to the center of the rotating table to take out the mutton. Demon General Arclight walked in front of the second chef and let him continue to draw lots. The lot in the wooden box was very strange. They were all based on one or a few ingredients. Furthermore, there was a special cooking requirement that was done by the chef. One of the chefs drew a lot and used green onions as the main dish. He was extremely unlucky. If the first round of the competition was a competition of strength, then in the second round of the competition, luck played an important role. After Momo finished drawing her lot, she went to make her dish. Next was Little Tian's turn. Little Tian didn't stop at all as she casually drew a lot and gave it to Fatty Hua. Fatty Hua also showed the seal on top of it, and then read, "This lot requires the chef to use noodles as a dish, and can be paired with any 4 types of side dishes. However, when the dish is completed, it cannot have the feeling of a main dish." Little Tian smiled faintly. "It's simple." He glanced at Nian Bing before walking towards the various materials in the center. The last one was Nian Bing. Arclight walked in front of Nian Bing and revealed a strange smile. He used his unique gentle voice and said, "Nian Bing, you are currently first. Continue to work hard. And this young man is very handsome and his magic is good. He is a rare talent." "Yes." Hearing Arclight's voice, Nian Bing's heart tightened. Thinking about Yen Feng below the stage, she thought to herself, "This can't be another chrysanthemum, right? He is one of the grand marshals of the Huarong Empire." While thinking, she hurriedly drew a lot faster than Little Tian and gave it to Hua Fatso. Then, she immediately retreated to the side and tried to keep her distance from Arclight. Hua Fatso opened the lot. When he saw the contents of the lot, he couldn't help but smile strangely. "Nian Bing, maybe it's because you are strong. You have hit the jackpot this time. You actually drew the most difficult lot. But don't worry, we'll add a star to your score according to your final dish." Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, "There's no need for that. I'm confident in my culinary skills. Please announce the content." Hua Fatso chuckled and said, "This lot requires the chef to use utensils to hold the dish. You are not allowed to use any utensils to cook. You can choose any ingredient. Now you can start. The time limit is also 1 hour." Hearing Hua Fatso's words, Nian Bing immediately realized that the lot to add a star was not easy to complete. No wonder he said this was the most difficult lot. To a chef, cooking without using any utensils was almost impossible. How could one cook without utensils? However, this may be difficult for others, but it was not difficult for Nian Bing. After thinking about it, she turned and walked towards the ingredient. The audience below the stage originally thought that Nian Bing had taken advantage of the situation. But when they heard the cooking requirement, they immediately revealed sympathetic expressions. If one cannot cook without utensils, then what was the point of adding a star? In the second carriage behind Yen Feng, there was a light sound of surprise. Obviously, the owner of the carriage also wanted to see how Nian Bing would cook without using utensils. Nian Bing chose 3 ingredients. They were fresh shrimp, crab, and a piece of beef. He did not choose any vegetables. She placed the 3 ingredients on the chopping board and turned her head to look at Little Tian. When she saw Little Tian's actions, she couldn't help but be shocked. Little Tian was kneading the dough. His movements were very slow, but his slow movements were abnormally strong. Looking at his kneading posture, Ling Nianbing couldn't help but think of Camel Chef Zi Xiu's heavy eagle hand. Is he increasing the strength of the dough? What kind of method is he going to use to cook? Little Tian's actions suddenly changed while Nianbing was feeling doubtful. He abruptly tossed the dough in his hand into the air. His arms hugged the dough in front of him, and his body rippled like water as he changed into an unusually gentle posture. When the dough landed, it actually floated in the air between his hands. Little Tian pushed his left palm forward while his right palm pulled back. The dough began to spin rapidly. The arrogance on Little Tian's face had disappeared, and he had become unusually calm. His body continued to make all sorts of gentle postures while the dough continued to dance between his hands. A faint yellow dough qi appeared around the dough, but the dough qi did not invade it. Instead, it continued to circulate as Little Tian moved. Nianbing's eyes widened. His hands, which were about to process his own materials, stopped. He stared unblinkingly at Little Tian's hands. To him, even if he lost this competition, he had to see every single one of Little Tian's actions clearly. This was because he had thought of a technique from Little Tian's actions. It was the Yin-Yang Harmony Taiji hand, which was the best of the 7 great forbidden hands. The Taiji hand was the most mysterious of the 7 forbidden hands. It only appeared in legends. Even Ghost Chef Chaji, Nianbing's master, had never seen it before. He had only read about it in books. However, even though it was just a legend, it was still ranked at the top of the 7 great forbidden hand. According to the legend, there was once a chef who only knew how to make steamed buns. His method of making steamed buns was the Taiji hand. The Taiji hand was not simply a method of processing ingredient. It was a cooking method in itself. When practiced to the extreme, one could even use the technique to cook ingredients. The taste contained within was incomparably strange. It was born from the Taiji hand and was endless. Even the best chefs would not be able to distinguish every taste of the Taiji hand's delicacies. Nianbing's face revealed a trace of a bitter smile. He knew that he had already lost this competition. No matter how exquisite his magic was, under the premise of not using a few top-notch divine knives, he could not win against the top of the 7 great forbidden hands. However, he did not become dispirited because of this. After all, he was able to see the Taiji hand. To him, this was already a very wonderful thing. Little Tian's expression was still calm. His hands were like his expression. Every movement would make the dough gently rotate. Suddenly, his gentle hands fiercely pulled. A strand of dough flew out from the rapidly rotating dough and evenly spread out on the chopping board in front of him. At this time, the entire rotating platform was only left with the sound of breathing. Those who did not know the goods did not understand, but after all, there were still people who knew the goods. Demon Martial Arc Light at the side muttered to himself, "What is going on? Has the world changed?" A great magician and a martial expert did not join the army, but became a chef. This set of techniques is really good. Using defense as offense, but I can't find a trace of weakness. Other than Nianbing, the other 9 chefs were busy. Little Tian's movements had already changed. The dough in his hands had completely turned into thin strands. He did not look at Nian Bing, as if he did not feel Nian Bing's gaze, and began the next step of the cooking process. Just when Nian Bing was in a daze, a clear and melodious voice woke him up. "Big brother Nian Bing, do your best." Looking up, on the rostrum, Kitty was excitedly waving at him. Nian Bing clapped his hands. His spirit was instantly lifted. "What is wrong with me? The yin-yang harmony taiji hand is indeed wonderful, but it is not that I do not have the strength to resist. As long as I do my best, even if I lose, so what? Little Tian, I really did not misjudge you. I really did not expect that the long-lost taiji hand would appear in your hand. However, I will not admit defeat." Thinking of this, Nian Bing also began to move. He quickly removed the shells of the prawns that he had prepared, used his fingers to remove the prawns, and used the strength of his hands to directly pinch the live crab. He took out the crab roe and crab meat and placed them together with the prawns. Then, he placed the beef, prawns, and crab together and began his own actions. After a simple movement of his hands, Nian Bing began to evenly pat the ingredients in front of him. At the beginning, the direction of his palm could be seen clearly, but as the speed increased, only the afterimages of his palm could be seen on the kitchen table. Palm patting, palm cutting, back hitting. Every action appeared from an unimaginable angle. Nian Bing's hands seemed to have no bones, as they freely patted the ingredients in front of him. However, he was able to ensure that the juices of the ingredients did not flow out. This was the bone and tendon separation technique. As his hands moved faster, the three ingredients gradually mixed together. Nian Bing did not look at them, but continued to pat the ingredients. He mixed the prawns and crabs into the beef, adding the freshness of the seafood to the beef. Only when half the time had passed did he stop. Taking a deep breath, Nian Bing muttered a few incantations. A huge ice ball with a diameter of more than 3 feet appeared in front of him, followed by surging flames. The flames instantly enveloped the ice ball. The ice ball constantly melted in the flames, but it did not evaporate, as if it was covered by an invisible cover. Gradually, the original ice ball shrank a little, condensing into a water ball in midair. The water in the water ball gradually boiled under the scorching flames. Not allowed to use kitchen utensils? Magic is my kitchen utensils. Nian Bing tossed the ball containing the 3 ingredients into the air. He didn't have the dexterity of the 1,000 cut hands to cut the ingredients, but he was able to knead the meat into a ball. The large ball was gradually divided into dozens of meatballs, which directly entered the boiling water ball. They continued to roll around in the water ball. It was amazing. Nian Bing's heart followed the movements of his hands. He focused on the meatballs that were rolling in the water. Suddenly, both of his hands transformed at the same time. He used his spiritual power to control the water ball and quickly added the various seasonings on the chopping board into the meatballs. The water ball followed Nian Bing's thoughts and kept moving, adding the seasonings directly into the meatballs. At this time, Nian Bing controlled the water ball, coming in front of himself. His right hand stretched out, wrapped in flames, rhythmically rotating in the water. This was the mysterious jade hand. Under the effect of the mysterious jade hand, the meatballs were evenly heated, completely soaked in the seasonings. At the last moment, Nian Bing took out his red soul vinegar from the space ring, lightly dripping it, and with a push of his hands, the dozens of meatballs had already entered the prepared large bowl. With the help of ice and fire magic, he finished the dish without using any cooking utensils. At the same time, the 9 chefs who had started cooking before him had also completed their task. The judging of the second round was no different from the first round, only the order was changed. Nian Bing did not have anyone in his mind at this time, only the dish that looked like stir-fried vermicelli in front of little Tian. Vermicelli, that's noodles. What kind of taste would a dish made with Tai Chi hands produce? Little Tian also did not pay attention to the dishes introduced by the others, once again walking to Nian Bing's side, faintly smiling, and said, "Nian Bing, I admit that I was wrong. I didn't think that magic could be used in cooking like this. Your comprehension in this area is really strong. Nian Bing was also smiling as he looked at him. There was a look of appreciation in their eyes. After all, it was hard to find a worthy opponent. At their level of culinary skills, it was not easy to find a worthy opponent. Unfortunately, I still lost this round. Little Tian, what you used just now, was it the legendary Tai Chi hands of Yin-Yang harmony? Little Tian smiled, leading the way. Unfortunately, I haven't mastered it yet. Let me tell you a secret. In fact, the Tai Chi hands is the same as the heavy eagle hands. They are a kind of martial branch, divided into different stages. Right now, I still can't use the Tai Chi hands' infinite flavor, but I can use the Tai Chi hands to destroy the composition of any material, transforming it into the flavor I need. You will understand soon. This competition is really exciting. Your first knife against my first hand. Tell me, who do you think will win in the end? Nian Bing said, winning or losing is not important to me. Being able to see the legendary Tai Chi hands makes this trip worthwhile. After the competition is over, if there is a chance, I will definitely spar with you more. I think that this definitely won't be our last stage. There is still the God of Cooking competition waiting for us, right? Yes. Chapter 90. Little Tian laughed and said, that's right, there's still the God of Cookery tournament. I think we can both become the new God of Cookery. Oh right, I heard that there's a mysterious chef in the Ice Moon Empire. His nickname is Ice and Fire Chef. He seems to also use magic to cook. That's you, right? Nian Bing nodded and said, that's right. Since you told me the secret of Tai Chi hand, I have nothing to hide. I'm a magician with the same origin of ice and fire. I'm good at both ice and fire magic. You've also seen that these two kinds of magic are most suitable for cooking. Although you have the mysteries of Tai Chi hand, I won't admit defeat so easily. Our competition has a final round. That will be the best time for us to display our full strength. Very quickly, it was Little Tian's turn to explain his dish. Little Tian's explanation was very simple. His dish was called shark's fin. That's right, those noodles were actually made into the flavor of shark's fin. Adding on the supplementary ingredients, no one could detect the smell of the noodles. It was completely the flavor of the highest grade of shark's fin. This discovery immediately shocked everyone. Just like how no one understood how Nian Bing carved a phoenix through the watermelon skin, this time, no one understood how Little Tian did it. Fortunately, when he was cooking, everyone was watching, so no one suspected that he was faking it. Finally, it was Nian Bing's turn. Relying on the red soul vinegar and ice and fire magic to cook 3 kinds of ingredients, the tender taste and smooth texture of the top-grade ice and fire pill also won the praise of the judges. She also received extremely high praise. The final results were quickly released. The competition score was still led by Nian Bing and Little Tian. However, this time, Little Tian received 10 stars, while Nian Bing received 9. As for Momo, it was still the same as the first round, receiving 8 stars. Her cooking wasn't bad, but compared to Nian Bing and Little Tian, she was still a bit lacking. We've once again witnessed the miraculous cooking skills of top-grade chef. This time, although Chef Little Tian received the first place with 10 stars, it was much harder than before. However, since Nian Bing's drawing of lots is more difficult, we will give him 1 more star. Similarly, he will get full marks of 10 stars. Hua Fatso announced happily. The quality of this competition was obviously much better than the previous ones, especially the appearance of Nian Bing and Little Tian. All of them brought him great shock. Wait a minute. Nian Bing suddenly spoke up to stop Hua Fatso from continuing. Hua Fatso was stunned for a moment before he said, Chef Nian Bing, do you have any other opinions? Although it was very difficult for you to draw the lot, it was decided after we coordinated with many parties, so we can only give you this score. Nian Bing smiled and said, Boss Hua, I don't think the result is unfair to me, but it is unfair to Chef Lil Tian. I have indeed lost this competition. Please cancel your decision to give me 1 more star. I will have 9 stars. How about this? Chef Xiao Tian and I have the same parts. Let the final match decide the winner between us. What do you think? As the organizer of the competition, Hua Fatso naturally hoped that the competition would become more exciting. When he heard Nian Bing's words, he was immediately overjoyed and praised. Chef Nian Bing, you are really noble. Alright, we will do as you say. The final match would determine the result of this Jie Hua Long culinary challenge. Alright, the second round of the competition ends here. Tonight, when the sun sets, we will begin the final round of the competition. Nian Bing and Little Tian looked at each other and smiled. They walked down the stage together. Little Tian stretched and laughed. I am really tired. Nian Bing, do you know that using the yin-yang harmony Tai Chi hand is very exhausting? I don't know if I can use it again tonight. Nian Bing smiled and said, I hope you can use it. I still want to see it a few more times. Unfortunately, I don't cultivate battle chi. Otherwise, I would definitely pester you to learn this unique skill. Hearing Nian Bing say this, Little Tian's eyes suddenly lit up. He laughed and said, Are you teaching me? Although you can't learn my Tai Chi hand, I can learn your precious knife skills. After the competition, wait for me to pester you. After saying this, he couldn't help but laugh. Nian Bing. A cold voice sounded not far away. Nian Bing turned around and saw Yen Feng standing in the distance looking at her. Although his voice was cold, the expression on his face was very gentle. We meet again. Let's find a place to talk, okay? Little Tian looked at Yen Feng and probed Nian Bing. Your friend? Nian Bing nodded. Although she didn't like Yen Feng's sexual orientation, Yen Feng had helped her before and didn't do any harm to her. How could she deny it? You go rest first. I'll go talk with my friend. After saying this, she quickly walked towards Yen Feng. Seeing Nian Bing come to her side, Yen Feng couldn't help but smile even more. When the two of them walked out of the chef's resting area, he impatiently said, Nian Bing, long time no see. How have you been? I'm really sorry about last time. Father was in too much of a hurry to return to the capital and didn't have time to tell you. Nian Bing smiled and shook her head. It's fine. After all, your identity is different. Yen Feng sighed softly and said, You already know my identity, right? Sigh, this time, Father called me back to the capital because of the matter of the heir to the throne. Including me, Father has 7 sons. In theory, all 7 of us have the right to inherit the throne. Father's wife is already old. In order to avoid unnecessary conflicts in the future, we have to choose the heir as soon as possible. That's why I returned to the capital. Father originally wanted 5th brother to inherit the throne, but my mother, the Empress of the Ice Moon Empire, strongly opposed it. Mother gave birth to 2 sons for father. One is my eldest brother and the other is me. Eldest brother is the eldest son. Although he isn't as capable as 5th brother, he didn't make any big mistakes. With the support of mother and her family, it made father very difficult. Until now, the heir hasn't been decided. Being involved in this kind of power struggle is a painful thing. I finally found an excuse to leave the capital. I didn't expect to meet you here. Hearing Yen Feng's narration, Nian Bing could clearly feel the sorrow in his heart. Being born in the royal family wasn't necessarily a lucky thing. In front of power, family was no longer important. He once had the same feeling. He couldn't help but sigh. Clear music stays in the secular world. When disputes end, whoever can break through fame and fortune will roam freely in the void. Yen Feng's entire body shook. Brother, you're right. What a good, whoever can break through fame and fortune will roam freely in the void. You're right. Anyway, I have no interest in power. If they want to fight, then let them. I just want to be a free and unfettered king. Brother, after I'm done with these troubles, how about we travel the continent together? Nian Bing's facial muscles twitched a bit awkwardly. She changed the topic. Brother Yen, why did you come to the Huarong Empire this time? Although the Huarong Empire doesn't have any intention of invading the Ice Moon Empire, their relationship isn't that harmonious. As a prince, you personally came to the Huarong Empire. Aren't you afraid that they'll harm you? Yen Feng smiled and said gratefully, Brother, I'm afraid I'm not here to represent the Ice Moon Empire. I'm here to escort the contestants representing the Empire to participate in the 5 Nations New Magician competition. Didn't you see those carriages just now? Nian Bing's heart skipped a beat. That's right, Long Ji once said that each nation would send 2 contestants to participate in the New Magician competition. She was one of the contestants from the Ice Moon Empire. The other contestant was naturally sent by the Ice God Tower. Yen Feng came this time to escort the contestant from the Ice God Tower. Then it seemed that the one who collided with her spiritual energy before should be that person. Brother Yen, I saw those carriages. Who did the Ice God Tower send this time? Yen Feng could be said to tell Nian Bing everything he knew. The New Magician competition has been going for many years. It's the best place for the 5 empires to compete. The champion not only wins glory, but also a deterrent to the other empires. For the 5 empires, this competition is very important. Since the first competition, the Ice Moon Empire and the Huarong Empire have won the most championship. In the last competition, we were careless and let Huarong win. This time, we must win back. I'm very confident about this. In order to win this competition, my father personally went to the Ice God Tower to ask the Ice Goddess Priestess to send the strongest disciple. The Ice Goddess Priestess appreciated my father's sincerity and sent the most outstanding new generation of the Ice God Tower, Miss Bing Yun. Miss Bing Yun has also gradually shown her talent in the past few years, but she has already received the title of Thousand Illusions. Her ice magic is ever-changing and hard to defend against. Qianhuan Bingyun. Nian Bing murmured this name. According to Long Ji, the contestants who participated in the New Magician competition couldn't be older than 25 years old. From the exchange of spiritual energy between her and her strength wasn't below hers. She had reached the Archmage realm at such a young age. No wonder Yen Feng was so confident. Yen Feng was very excited to see Nian Bing again. Yes, it's Qianhuan Bingyun. Her name is completely different from her person, especially her personality. This is the first time I've seen such a cold woman. That's good. I hate those who keep pestering me. Nian Bing, you're also a magician. You should learn more from Miss Bingyun. Sigh, it's a pity that father insisted on giving the Empire's Magicians Guild a place to participate in the competition. Otherwise, as long as the Ice God Tower sent out 2 contestants, wouldn't the champion of the New Magician competition belong to us? Nian Bing smiled bitterly in her heart. Yen Feng, I'm afraid you didn't expect that the other contestant you thought was a loser was standing in front of you. Just as Nian Bing was thinking about how to get rid of Yen Feng, a soft voice sounded. Chef Nian Bing, what are you doing here instead of resting and preparing for the last competition? Without looking, Nian Bing knew who it was. She suddenly felt a little funny. If this magician Arclight really had that kind of hobby, then he and Yen Feng would be a couple. One was Bei Juhua from the extreme north Ice Moon Empire, and the other was the famous magician Nan Juhua from the Huarong Empire. Hello, magician Arclight. This is a friend of mine who came from afar. I'll chat with him for a while before going to rest. Hearing the name Arclight, Yen Feng's attention was immediately attracted. Cold light flashed in his eyes as he said indifferently, You're the magician Arclight? Recently, you guys from the Huarong Empire seem to be very active. Arclight also saw Yen Feng and his eyes lit up. He smiled and said, The 7th prince came to my territory first after coming to the Huarong Empire. This really makes Arclight excited. The 7th prince is even more handsome than the rumors say, but he seems a little cold. Yen Feng frowned slightly as he looked at the magician who was no less handsome than Yen Bing, but had a feminine aura between his eyebrows. He kept thinking about the opponent's strength. Since he dared to come here, he wasn't afraid of being recognized. However, he didn't expect to meet the leader of the Hwarong Empire's northeast army so soon. I've heard of the magician's great name. According to the rumors, you seem to be the youngest swordsman in the Hwarong Empire. A few years ago, when I was lucky enough to meet the Ice Goddess Priestess, she mentioned you. It's said that you actually lasted for a while before being defeated by the Ice Goddess Priestess. I really admire you. Although Yen Feng said it very calmly, his tone was no longer polite. Looking at the sparks created by the collision of the two big chrysanthemums of the north and south, Nian Bing complained in her heart. God, being sandwiched between two men with special inclinations was definitely not a pleasant thing. Arc Light smiled, and his eyes became even gentler. He looked at Yen Feng from head to toe. Young man, you should watch your words. I'll visit the Ice Goddess Priestess again sooner or later. However, she doesn't seem to be young anymore. Yen Feng snorted and said, The Ice Goddess Priestess lives as long as heaven and earth. No matter how old she is, she will always be the pillar of the Ice Moon Empire. I don't think there's anything to talk about between us. Nian Bing, let's go outside and talk. After saying that, he reached out to pull Nian Bing. Nian Bing reacted very quickly, and dodged Yen Feng's pull without leaving a trace. She followed him outside. It was always better to have one less chrysanthemum blooming next to her. Squeezing into the crowd, Nian Bing had already put on his bamboo hat. The people in the square were already very enthusiastic, and he didn't want to become the center of attention. Yen Feng's body emitted a faint white light. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to tell. However, Nian Bing, who was familiar with all kinds of elements, could clearly feel that his duki was of the light attribute. Although there were many people in the square, wherever the two passed, the crowd would be slightly pushed aside by their duki, just enough for them to pass through. Seeing the three carriages getting closer and closer, the flames of hatred in Yen Bing's heart continued to burn. His heart was contracting. Ice God Tower, the Ice God Tower that made him lose his beautiful childhood, the Ice God Tower that made him lose his beloved parents. One day, he would personally destroy you. The surroundings became lighter, and the two had already squeezed out of the crowd. Yen Feng ordered his subordinates, and led Nian Bing to a quieter tree at the side of the square. When Nian Bing passed by the three carriages, he intentionally glanced at the second carriage. Although the curtains were down, the coldness was still there, as if the carriage was a huge block of ice. Nian Bing's eyes emitted a faint cold light. Qianhuan Bingyun, we will definitely fight soon. My revenge against the Ice God Tower will start with defeating you. Humiliating the Ice God Tower was definitely something he wanted to do the most. Nian Bing, why did you come here to participate in the cooking competition? Yen Feng's voice had already become gentle again. Nian Bing smiled faintly. His gaze was still fixed on the carriage in the center as he said, Ice Snow City is good, but that's not my home. I promised the master who taught me culinary skills that I would travel across the continent and bring glory to my culinary skills. I would become the best chef on the continent. That's why I came here to participate in the competition. Only by meeting more culinary experts can I improve my skills even more. Yen Feng's eyes revealed a yearning expression. I really envy you. If only I could be like you and fly freely in the sky, how good would that be? To be able to travel to every corner of the continent has always been my wish. Feeling Yen Feng's loneliness, Nian Bing turned to look at him, patted his shoulder and said, Don't think so much. Everything will be in the past. Everything is not that important. You have your difficulties, and I also have my difficulties. No one can always have a smooth sailing life. Look on the bright side. Just like you said, isn't it good to be a free and unfettered prince? Yen Feng laughed. He said, Yes. Free and unfettered prince, when father officially determines the heir to the throne, I will be able to regain my freedom. At that time, I will definitely find you again. At this time, a knight quickly walked in front of Yen Feng and said respectfully, Your Highness, there are less people in the square now. We can go now. A trace of reluctance flashed in Yen Feng's eyes. Nian Bing smiled and said, Stay with us. We can talk more. Nian Bing shook her head. She said, No, I won't go first. I still have a competition tonight, and it won't start for a while. I want to go back to my place and rest for a while. Nian Bing reached out her right hand. Good luck, you will definitely win. I will watch your competition tonight. Although Nian Bing was unwilling, she still shook his right hand. Thank you. No matter if I win or lose, I will do my best. After seeing the Tai Chi hand of yin and yang in the small world, he was not absolutely sure. As he watched Yin Feng and the 3 carriages disappear into the distance, Nian Bing realized that he didn't hate Yin Feng as much as before. Although he was a prince, he wasn't happy. His identity as a prince brought him too many restrictions and responsibilities. Other than his sexual orientation, Yin Feng was a friend that he could make. At this moment, Nian Bing's rejection of Yin Feng was gradually disappearing. Looking at the gradually dispersing crowd, Nian Bing turned around and walked back to her hotel. She would go back and rest for a while. When the competition was at night, a quiet environment would be more suitable for her meditation. When she was about to go back to the hotel, Nian Bing suddenly heard a voice. Nian Bing, I have something to tell you. Come with me. When she looked back, she saw Hillard standing not far away and nodding to her. Hillard then turned and walked out of the Teru Square. In a short moment, Nian Bing did not see anything from Hillard's face. What could he want from her? She quickly followed Hillard. The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, walked into the depths of Teru City. After turning into a quiet alley, Hillard stopped. Nian Bing walked behind him and stopped about 3 meters away. Senior, why are you looking for me? Hillard slowly turned around. Nian Bing felt a trace of coldness from him. Nian Bing, among the humans, you are indeed very outstanding. At such a young age, you are not only a great magician, but also an excellent chef. Coupled with your handsome appearance, it is easy to give people a good impression. But do you know? These benefits of yours have brought you a fatal disaster. Hillard shook his right hand, and the bracelet on his wrist emitted a faint silver light. A scroll jumped into his hand. You will understand soon. Before Nian Bing could react, he had already opened the scroll. The silver light formed a huge light shield that completely enveloped him and Nian Bing. Everything around them was instantly enveloped by the silver light. Nian Bing realized that this was a teleportation scroll. Judging from the magic fluctuation, it should not exceed the 7th level. It was a short-distance teleportation scroll. What was Hillard doing? From his tone, could it be that he wanted to kill her? There was a flash of silver light, and when Nian Bing saw the scenery in front of him again, he and Hillard were already in a valley surrounded by mountains. As far as the eye could see, the entire valley was shrouded in a layer of gray aura. Hillard did not seem to know where his teleportation scroll had teleported them to. As soon as he appeared, he immediately took a careful look at everything around him. Senior, you used a non-positioning mid-distance teleportation scroll. This should be a 6th-level spatial magic. If it is a positioning teleportation, it can reach the 8th level. Hillard stopped observing and smiled indifferently. You should know why I brought you here. Do you want to end your own life, or do you want me to do it? This place is sparsely populated, so it's not a bad place to bury your bones. Don't worry, I'll leave your corpse intact. It is a pity that you are such a good cook. If you have any funeral arrangements, there is still time to tell me. I will do my best to arrange them for you. Nian Bing looked at Hillard calmly. It is because of Kitty. Senior, from the first time we met, you seemed to be very worried about Kitty, as if you were afraid that something would happen between her and me. In fact, I have always treated her as a cute little sister. Of course, you cannot believe my words, but think about it carefully. Even if I die in the future, as long as Kitty is in contact with ordinary people, she will meet someone she likes. She will meet handsome men. Do you want to kill all the men that Kitty meets? Hillard snorted coldly. You don't have to say anything. The mantle of the dragon summoner must be inherited by Kitty. She is my only daughter. Even if I kill all the men in the world for her, I will not hesitate. I have never thought of myself as a kind person. Humans have always been good at using unscrupulous means to achieve their goals. Although I am white, I am still human. If you don't have any last words, then take your own life. Of course, you can also choose to resist. However, I want to remind you that dying in a spiritual magic is an extremely painful thing. From Hillard's eyes, Nian Bing could see his contempt for her. Indeed, he was a dragon summoner with a powerful spiritual power at the level of a super magus. Coupled with his strange spiritual magic, it was impossible for her to deal with him. However, that wind dragon called Caradiris could easily destroy her. At this moment, Nian Bing could not help but think of Garamandes. If he was by her side, such a threat would not appear. Thinking about it was just thinking, but she still had to face reality. Although she did not want to fight with Hillard, the murderous intent in Hillard's eyes clearly told her that all this was real and not an act. You want to kill me? Hillard, I am no longer the Nian Bing of half a year ago. Nian Bing smiled. Senior, before I die, I only have one wish. I don't know if you can agree to it. Hillard nodded and said, Say it, as long as I can do it. From the bottom of his heart, he still admired Nian Bing very much. A young magus with the same origin of ice and fire, her future was limitless. Nian Bing said, You're a senior and so am I. I think that even if I die, I'm willing to die under your magic, no matter how painful it is. Therefore, I want to fight you. However, you're my senior. Before we fight, can you let me draw a magic array? That way, I might be able to last a little longer. Magic array. Hillard looked at Nian Bing with some confusion. From Nian Bing's eyes, he could not see anything. Nian Bing, do you know how to draw magic arrays? That seems to be the specialty of spatial magi. Nian Bing smiled and said, I've always liked magic arrays. Later on, I received some guidance from a teacher, and gained some basic understanding of magic arrays. I wonder if you can give me some time to study them? Hillard smiled indifferently and said, Go ahead and draw. I'll give you the time of a meal. However, you don't have to try to escape. Even if you have a spatial magic scroll on you, it will be useless. This is because within a radius of 1,000 feet I've completely sealed it off. Without my consent, any teleportation magic will be completely ineffective. Nian Bing smiled bitterly and said, Senior, do you think I am someone who has a spatial magic scroll? Spatial magic scrolls are the most precious among all magic scrolls, especially those with teleportation abilities. They are treasures that can save lives. Nian Bing indeed did not have one. Ever since he obtained the 4 Stars sword, he had tried to make a spatial magic scroll more than once. However, in the end, he always failed. He did not know why, but he always felt that something was missing when he was making the scrolls. Perhaps it was because he made them with mimicry magic. Facing a strong enemy in front of him, Nian Bing secretly swore that if he could escape this disaster, he would definitely make a spatial magic scroll in the future. Without wasting any time, as soon as Hillard agreed to let him draw the magic array, Nian Bing suppressed the excitement in his heart. He held the sigh of the snow goddess and the roar of the fire god in his hands. The red and blue light of the 2 swords flashed at the same time, quickly drawing a complicated pattern on the ground. At first, Hillard did not pay much attention to it, but as Nian Bing's hands moved so fast that they became a 2-colored phantom, it attracted Hillard's attention. As a dragon summoner, he naturally had a certain amount of research on magic arrays. The more complex a magic array was, the more powerful it could be. Looking at Nian Bing's cumbersome movements and the magic array that was constantly taking shape on the ground, he had a faint feeling of uneasiness in his heart. This magic array looked simple and did not seem to be an ordinary magic array. Moreover, it was so complicated to draw. What kind of function did it have? As the uneasiness gradually increased, Hillard was surprised to find that Nian Bing's body was emitting a faint layer of mist. His forehead was covered with sweat. Obviously, he had consumed a lot of mental strength because of this magic array. Seeing this, Hillard's heart calmed down. In his mind, Nian Bing was just a mage after all. Even if he exhausted his mental strength, the magic array he drew would not pose too much of a threat to him. Moreover, it was obviously not a teleportation magic array. It should only be used to increase the offensive power. This fellow was really overestimating himself. Even if his offensive power had increased, what use would it be if he did not have good control over it? In the blink of an eye, 2 magic arrays had appeared on the ground, one positive and one negative. The lines of the positive magic array were similar to those of ordinary magic arrays. It was engraved with the roar of the god of fire, and it was red in color. As for the anti-magic array, when it was drawn, it was not outlined from the edges, but from the small symbols inside. When the positive magic array was completed, the anti-magic array was also completed. With a slight smile, Nian Bing's eyes revealed a faint cold light. That was the fusion of red and blue magic array. Feeling the oppressive aura of the magic array, he knew that he was close to the edge of success. He held the hilts of the 2 magic swords in both hands and gathered them in front of his chest. In a low voice, he chanted, "Ice, you are the representation of cold. Fire, you are the source of burning heat. The aura of ice and fire, please allow me to fuse your characteristics. With your common source as a guide, resonate." Chapter 91. The stone of the ice goddess and the stone of the god of fire emitted a dazzling light at the same time, and the magic circle seemed to be activated. A ball of red and blue intertwined light rose from the center of the circle, and the light kept flickering. Suddenly, the world around them seemed to have changed. The red and blue disappeared at the same time, and everything became faint. Nian Bing and Hillard shook at the same time. They each covered their heads and fell to the ground with a pained expression on their faces. The magic circle on the ground had turned into a light purple color, and every magic symbol in it was slowly rotating around the magic circle. The world in the eyes of Nian Bing and Hillard had turned completely purple. Everything was so real, yet so illusory. Nian Bing was constantly panting, and big drops of sweat fell down. Although he was in extreme pain, there was a smile on his face. It was a happy smile. Even the dragon summoner was tricked by him, so how could he not be excited? The magic in his body was still there, but his mental strength had been completely extracted. He could only rely on his basic consciousness to control his body. For a magician, losing mental strength meant losing control of magic. If he chanted a spell without permission, it was very likely that his magic would backfire on him. However, these were not important to Nian Bing. He had already achieved what he wanted to achieve. Looking at Hillard, who was in more pain than himself, Nian Bing forced a smile. He forced himself to calm down and stood up while enduring the weakness. "You didn't expect this, did you, Senior Hillard? I think you certainly didn't expect me to use such a magic circle to deal with you. In fact, when I was drawing this magic circle, even I wasn't sure if it would succeed." Previously, the moment the magic circle burst forth with power, Hillard had already realized that something was wrong, but it was too late to react. A needle-like feeling instantly entered his brain, and the powerful mental strength that he had always been proud of was flowing out like lightning. His control of his mental strength was completely gone, and his brain was in severe pain. He fell to the ground. At this time, listening to Nian Bing's words, he had recovered some of his consciousness, but it was not that his strength had recovered. Instead, it was because his mental power had almost completely disappeared. His brain no longer hurt, and a strong sense of dizziness kept attacking him. Hillard was very regretful. He had never thought that he would be pecked in the eye by a swallow today after fighting swallows all day long. Hua Jia also stood up and looked at the magic array with purple light. His body trembled. Is this the legendary restriction array? Nian Bing smiled faintly. He said, Senior, you didn't expect this, right? Actually, this formation isn't very useful. It can only suppress the mental strength of the sentries within a radius of 3,000 feet. As long as they walk out of this range, they will naturally recover. It's a formation that suppresses the strength of a magician. However, the biggest advantage of this formation is to deal with white people like you. White people don't have magic, and the mental magic that you are good at is completely transformed from your mental strength. Under the effect of this magic circle, I'm afraid that your powerful mental magic can no longer be used. Even summoning requires a mental connection. Without your mental strength, even if you are a powerful dragon summoner, you are now no different from an ordinary person. Am I right? Hillard resisted the discomfort of his body and snorted. Yes, I am no different from an ordinary person, but you also said that as long as I walk out of the range of 3,000 feet, my mental strength can be restored. This magic circle restricts my magic, and it also restricts yours. I don't believe that you dare to use magic now. Without the control of your mental strength, I'm afraid that when the time comes, I won't be the one to die. Nian Bing smiled. Yes, Senior, you are right. I really don't dare to use magic now. Otherwise, if something goes wrong, we will die together. Senior Hillard, I've always been kind and respectful, but I didn't expect that you would want to kill me for your own selfish reasons. Originally, I shouldn't have made things difficult for you for Kitty's sake, but I don't want to be hunted down by a powerful summoner who can summon dragons in the future. After all, good luck doesn't come easily. Senior, you lost today because you were kind to me after you wanted to kill me. We don't have any magic left, so I think it's time for us to start eating meat. I wonder how long you can last under my sword? You should remember that I am a chef. As a chef, my physical strength is much stronger than ordinary magicians. Nian Bing raised the sigh of the snow goddess and the roar of the fire god. She walked toward Hillard step by step. At this moment, her heart was filled with killing intent. Although Hillard was Kitty's father, if she didn't kill him, he would definitely be killed by him. In order to survive, killing Hillard was the only choice. Feeling the aura of the two divine blades, Hillard's face became more and more unpleasant. Indeed, for a summoner, the most terrible thing was that their mental strength was limited. However, magic that could limit mental strength did not exist at all. Only the forbidden magic circle in the legends could do it. In the face of this guy, who was only a supreme magician who could draw such a lost magic circle, he was the public enemy of all white people. As long as he existed, white summoners would be completely restricted. But now, how could Hillard resist? The loss of a large amount of mental strength caused him to suffer much more than Nian Bing. When Nian Bing was drawing the magic array, he had already used up a lot of mental strength, so the loss of mental strength did not cause too much of a burden to him. However, it was different for Hillard. As a summoner, mental strength was his lifeline. Regardless of whether it was summoning spells or essence magic, mental strength was the foundation of all spells. Nian Bing smiled slightly and suddenly stopped. Senior, I think that if you don't know the name of this magic circle before you die, even if you go to hell, you will regret it very much. This magic formation is an ancient magic formation that I accidentally found in an ancient book. When I saw this magic formation, it was already incomplete. The only thing missing was the most crucial part to activate it. In order to research how to activate this magic formation, I devised countless theories. In the end, I discovered that this magic formation requires the magic elements to be in a state of equilibrium to activate. My ice and fire affinity just happens to be able to reach that level. However, this magic circle attracted me only because of its complexity and characteristic. I did not expect to use it. After all, limiting mental strength is not good for me. However, when you were about to kill me just now, I suddenly thought of it. Isn't this magic circle the nemesis of a summoner like you? As long as you step into this magical area before casting your summoning spell, everything will become easier. You must remember to ask for Chu Li's help. Remember, this magic circle's name is Eternal Sleep. It means eternal sleep. Senior, don't worry, I will do my best to take care of Kitty. There is one thing that I want to reiterate. I do not have the kind of feelings that you think I have for Kitty. I really only see her as a little sister. As he said this, he raised the sword in his hand. Wait a minute! Hillard suddenly shouted. His weak body wanted to dodge backwards, but because of his weak mental strength, he could not use his strength. His physical condition was indeed much worse than Nian Bing's. Nian Bing looked at Hillard. He was not in a hurry now. After all, he did not want to go back to Talu City after killing Hillard, because he did not know how to face Kitty. After all, he had lost a family, so he naturally knew the pain of losing a father. However, the situation now forced him to do this. If he did not kill, he would be killed. It was a simple choice. There was no need to think too much about it. Seeing that Nian Bing had stopped moving, Hillard smiled bitterly and said, "Kid, you are smarter than I thought. You are also more scheming. Magic is indeed different from martial arts. Under special circumstances, even the strongest magician will feel pain. However, this magic formation of yours is not without its flaws. I think its range of control is not as big as you said. Moreover, if I were a mage like you, I could use my powerful magic to charge out of this magic formation. Once you reach the realm of a magician, even if you don't have any mental strength, it's not like you can't control magic. From a certain point of view, this magic formation of yours can completely deal with us summoners. To be honest, I don't want to die. I have a wife and a daughter that I love. If you let me go now, I can swear that I will not hurt you. Not now, not in the future. How about it?" When the crisis of life was over, Hillard bowed his head. He was not a person who was afraid of death, but he did not want his wife to lose her husband and his daughter to be fatherless. When he thought of his wife and daughter's sad faces, he had no choice but to bow his head to Nian Bing. As a proud dragon summoner, this was the first time in his life that Hillard admitted defeat. Nian Bing was stunned. Hillard was indeed a powerful magician. He was right. The distance of 10,000 feet that she mentioned was just a joke. With her current magic of the same origin of ice and fire, she could not support such a long distance. The magic circle could only control a radius of a few hundred feet. Moreover, the drawbacks that Hillard pointed out were also very good. Long Ji once told Nian Bing that this magic circle was completely ineffective against magicians above the level of a magician. This was because, after reaching the level of a magician, although they could not completely control magic after losing their mental strength, they could still control the direction of magic. As long as the magic circle was destroyed or all the enemies were killed, everything would be meaningless. If not for this, Nian Bing would have used this magic circle to find a priest of the ice goddess. "Senior, on what basis do you want me to believe your words? Even if you are a trustworthy person, the one you game is very easy to play. You only said that you won't kill me, but you didn't say that your people and pets won't kill me. As a powerful summoner, you have too many ways to deal with me. I'm only one person, a little magician and a little chef. I can't take the risk." Nian Bing looked at Hillard. In a situation where Hillard was not a threat, she spoke her mind. For the sake of her own life, the best way was to silence Hillard. After all, when she and Hillard left, no one saw them. As long as she killed Hillard and left Talu City, even if the sentries suspected her, there would be no evidence. Hillard said angrily, "Are you questioning my words? Who am I? Why would I do such a despicable thing?" Nian Bing said calmly, "As the saying goes, the world is unpredictable. In the past, I risked my life to save Kitty. But today, aren't you going to kill me? You can change your mind very quickly, but I don't want to treat my life as a game. How about this? You swear that you will not use any means to take revenge on me or hurt me as long as you are alive. Otherwise, the white race will be completely destroyed. Only then can I believe you. For Caucasians like summoners, it was useless to make them swear an oath of divine retribution before leaving. They hated the heavens, and Hillard's Achilles' heel was his people. Hillard's face changed. Nian Bing, you are so cruel. Fine, 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 I swear. But you have to be careful. A person who is too despicable will not end well. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, I don't think I'm despicable in any way. I'm just trying to protect myself better. Is that wrong? I need to say something. I still have a lot to do. Senior, I still want to go back to Talos City to participate in the last competition. Please hurry up and swear. He smiled. At this time, his heart became lighter. Not killing Hillard was naturally the best choice. Hillard snorted hatefully, pointed one finger to the sky, and said in a deep voice, I, Hillard, swear that if Nian Bing does not hurt me today, I will not use any means to hurt him in my lifetime. If I violate this oath, let the white race disappear from history. In the process of swearing, his voice was trembling. It was obvious that the anger in his heart had reached the extreme. Nian Bing felt a burst of pride in her heart. To be able to force a dragon summoner to swear not to hurt him, she was afraid that no one had ever done it before. Just as he was about to remove the magic array, a sudden change occurred. The valley shook violently, and the rumbling sound continued. The purple magic array emitted a purple light. In an instant, the whole valley was shrouded in purple. This time, the power of the magic array really spread to a distance of 10,000 feet. However, it only lasted for a moment. Just as Nian Bing and Hillard felt that their spiritual power had begun to recover due to the disappearance of the magic array, the ground suddenly split open. A huge crack ran through the whole valley, and a black and gray aura rose to the sky. Waves of cold evil spread out. Nian Bing instinctively pounced on Hillard, grabbed him, and pulled him aside, just in time to avoid a crack that spread out from behind Hillard. Before the two of them could celebrate, there was a loud bang. In the violent tremor, they could no longer control their bodies and tumbled in the air toward the bottomless abyss. In the process of falling, Nian Bing clasped Hillard's arm tightly, put the two swords into the ring, and summoned his Xuanji sword with the spiritual power that had just recovered. Darkness swallowed Nian Bing and Hillard's figures. The black fog was full of coldness. The valley, which had few living creatures, had now become a land of death. Whether it was plants or animals, they had all gradually melted in the black fog. The Death Valley gradually formed, and there seemed to be countless mournful howls spiraling in the valley. It was an unusually cold evil power, an incomparably huge evil aura. Taru City. Kitty was sitting on the rostrum, bored, and eating the food sent by the staff. As she ate, she muttered discontentedly, Why isn't Daddy back yet? Didn't he say that he was going to walk around and stretch his body and would be back soon? Where did Big Brother Nian Bing go? He was still here just now. He should be resting. The competition is about to start. Kitty, eat less. If you eat more, you'll become a little fat kitty. Arc Light's playful voice suddenly sounded. Kitty looked up at the handsome Devil Marshal and snorted, Little broken snake, you're the fat one. I'm a beautiful girl, Kitty. Is there anyone with a more perfect figure than me? If you say that my figure is not good, I'll let Daddy teach you a lesson. I heard that you like to be attacked by spiritual magic. Hee, these days, besides the competition, I'm so bored. Little broken snake, I want to go to your barracks to play. Can you take me there? Looking at Kitty's malicious eyes, Arc Light broke out in cold sweat. He would rather rush into the Fey army than become enemies with this girl Kitty. This little witch really gave him a headache. No need. Kitty, Uncle will take you to other places to play some other day. There are many fun places in Taru City. Tonight's competition will be more exciting than the one during the day. The final winner will be decided. Moreover, that boy called Nianbing is a magician. Cooking with magic, the night will be even more gorgeous. Sure enough, at the mention of Nianbing, Kitty's attention was immediately diverted. A smile appeared on her pretty face. Yes, Big brother Nianbing is the best at cooking. Today, he will definitely be the champion. At this time, in a corner of Taru Square, the vampire Ping Chao and his little master Yu were eating the food they had just bought from Hualong restaurant. While eating, Yu said with dissatisfaction, "Big brother Ping Chao, why can't we eat this? I want to eat the food made by the chefs on the round platform. The food they make is very special. It will definitely be delicious, right?" Ping Chao whispered, "Yu, don't make trouble. We should go back. Otherwise, if Moon Lord blames us, I won't be able to afford it." Suddenly, Ping Chao's whole body shook. He looked into the distance and his eyes flashed with blood. His body slightly convulsed because of excitement. This is the aura of our clansman. Little master, this is the aura of our clansman." Yu was stunned for a moment and said, "Our clansmen? You mean those powerful existences who are wandering outside? Didn't father say that they were all sealed at that time?" No, although Ping Chao tried his best to lower his voice, the excitement in his heart was hard to conceal. "Little master, you don't know. After the war, although the vast majority of people were sealed, there were still some powerful and clever clansmen who escaped the ultimate seal. Although they were sealed to a certain extent, the seal was not firm and could be removed under certain circumstances. Just like Sir Moonlord, who is one of the magicians, Sir has always been looking for these low-level sealed clansmen. Only by gathering more power can we succeed. Yu, let's go and take a look. I can already feel that the aura is getting stronger and stronger. If we can contact these people who have removed the seal, it will definitely be a great contribution. Our strength will also be greatly enhanced." Yu stuffed the snack into her mouth and said, "Then what are we waiting for? Let's go and take a look. I just don't know which clan they are from. It would be best if they are from the same clan as me." The two quietly slipped out of the crowd. After a while, they disappeared from the Taru Square. Not long after, a black shadow rose into the sky and flew towards the distance. The sky gradually darkened. The Taru Square was once again filled with people. As the final round of the finals, the people's emotions had reached the highest point. All the chefs who participated in the finals slowly stepped onto the rotating round table. Little Tian looked around, but he couldn't see Nianbing's figure. He frowned and thought in his heart, where did Nianbing go? He will never be afraid of fighting. But the competition is about to start, why hasn't he come yet? If Nianbing didn't come, the magician would undoubtedly be the champion. However, Little Tian didn't want to win the championship in this way. He very much wanted to have the final duel with Nianbing. He wanted to win with his own ability. Time passed by minute. Fatso Hua was also waiting for the final duel. He had deliberately delayed the duel, but Nianbing still didn't appear. Helpless, he could only announce that Nianbing had given up on the final round. The competition officially began. Without Nianbing's presence, Little Tian was not interested in the competition. However, with his culinary skills and the advantages he had accumulated in the previous 2 rounds, he easily became the champion of the Hualong Culinary Challenge. Momo was also an 8-star chef in 3 rounds, and she was the runner-up. Another outstanding chef replaced Nianbing's position and unexpectedly obtained the 3rd place. The prize money and the certificate to participate in the God of Cooking competition were quickly handled by the contestant. The Hualong cooking competition that lasted for 3 days finally ended. The celebration in Taru City also drew an imperfect end. Everything returned to normal. The next Hualong cooking competition would be held 3 years later. Little Tian walked down from the rotating round table and angrily slammed his hands on it. He roared to himself, "Nianbing, why didn't you come? What does this kind of championship mean to me? Don't be angry. Momo's gentle voice rang out from behind little Tian. She walked to his side and held his large, fair hand. There must be a reason why Nianbing didn't come. Perhaps something happened to him. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't have not come. However, although you didn't have the chance to fight with him, there will be chances in the future. After all, there is still the god of cooking competition, right? If Nianbing saw how intimate Momo and Lil Tian were, he would definitely be shocked. Lil Tian looked at Momo, and the anger in his eyes subsided a little. Forget it. The competition is over anyway. There's no point in saying anything more. I hope to see him at the God of Cookery competition. Before you defeat him, you won't be the #1 chef in the younger generation. Momo, in a few days I want to stay in the green bamboo forest for a while. Can you follow me there? Master once said that the toughness of bamboo is the most suitable for practicing Tai Chi hand. I want to practice Tai Chi hands to a higher realm before I meet Nianbing. Momo's gentle face blushed. She nodded lightly and said, "Wherever you go, I will be there. Let's go. Let's go and say goodbye to the elders. Then we will set off." Little Tian nodded. She gazed into the distant horizon and sighed softly. "Nianbing, you're the greatest opponent I've faced since I started cultivating. You're also the opponent I desire to fight the most. I hope nothing happens to you. Let's meet soon." After saying that, he looked at his hands that were more beautiful than a woman's. His eyes flashed, and a faint yellow aura flashed. Darkness. The surroundings were completely dark. He clenched his teeth and endured the pain in his body. Nianbing was trying to sit up straight, but the sudden violent tremors from the ground made him and Hillard unable to resist at all. Although the eternal sleep magic array helped him to restrain Hillard, it also caused their mental strength to reach the lowest point. In the face of such a sudden change, they had no chance to react at all. Fortunately, Nianbing had pulled out his hexagram blade in time when he was falling into the abyss. Using the same source of ice and fire, he used a short-distance teleportation spell to reduce the speed of his fall. That was why he didn't fall to his death when he fell into the abyss. However, the excessive depletion of energy had also pushed Nianbing's spiritual power to the brink of collapse. If not for the tenacity and perseverance that he had cultivated over many years, he would have died. If he didn't cultivate his mental strength, he would have fainted. Hillard also remained conscious. His current situation was much better than Nianbing's. He sat not far from Nianbing and quickly recovered his mental strength. He knew very well that only by winning the mental strength track and field competition could he face the unknown. The strong evil aura underground filled his heart with uneasiness. Sharp and mournful cries rang out almost continuously. Each cry was louder than the last. Nianbing took a deep breath and touched the wounds on his body that weren't too deep. He forced himself to sit cross-legged and used a simple water healing technique to treat the wounds on his body. His heart was now full of gratitude to Garamandes. If Garamandes hadn't dug the hell-like baptism, he was afraid that his bones would have been broken during the last fall. It was his tough body that saved his life. Of course, there was also the hexagram blade. "Boy, are you dead yet?" Hillard's cold voice sounded. It was so dark in the abyss that Nianbing could only determine Hillard's current location by sensing his aura. "Thanks to you, I'm still alive. Senior, how are you? Are you hurt? The magic array is gone. Your mental strength should have recovered a little. I hope you don't forget your oath." In a dangerous place, he didn't want to have a powerful enemy by his side. However, he believed that as long as Hillard was not a fool, he would not harm him. After all, in a situation where there was an unknown crisis, the only rational choice was to cooperate. Recently, he was really unlucky to have encountered so many things while participating in a competition. Not to mention the two big chrysanthemums in the north and the south, the threat that Hillard brought to him was already fatal. It was not easy to control Hillard with a little cleverness, but he encountered this situation. "Why am I always the one who gets hurt?" Hillard was silent for a moment before he said, "My mental strength has recovered by about 50%. Your magic array did a lot of damage to me, and it will take some time for me to fully recover." Nian Bing could no longer detect any hostility from Hillard's voice. He immediately heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Senior, where are we? Was that an earthquake?" Hillard snorted and said, "What earthquake? This disaster was caused by your magic array. Don't you feel that this place is full of cold evil? There must be something evil here. If I'm not wrong, your magic array must have opened some kind of seal that was imposed here, which will cause the mountains to collapse. As for the consequences of the ceremony, it is hard to say." Nian Bing sucked in a breath of cold air. "Senior, are you saying that I've undone the seal on some evil magical beast? You should be most familiar with all kinds of magical beasts. Is there any solution?" Hillard sighed and said, "There is no solution now. Let's wait until we recover our strength. However, it may not be a magical beast sealed here. It may be a human." "A human? A human can be sealed underground?" Nian Bing's voice was full of surprise. Hillard said indifferently, "Nothing is impossible. This aura is so evil, I am afraid it is a very ominous thing." Nian Bing's mind raced as she hurriedly said, "Senior, don't you have a summon beast? Since this place is so dangerous, why don't you use your treasures to bring people out?" Hillard said, "Do you think I don't want to? However, the evil aura here is too strong. I am afraid that my pets can't bear it. We don't know how high this place is from the outside. Once my flying pets are affected by the evil aura and drop us, do you still have spatial magic scrolls to support us from falling to our deaths?" Until now, he had not realized that Nian Bing was not using scrolls, but real spatial magic. Hearing the words spatial magic, Nian Bing was suddenly energized. Yes, she could use camouflage. With wind magic, she might be able to fly out. With her magic power, she should have no problem flying to an altitude of tens of thousands of meters. Chapter 92. Thinking of this, he suddenly relaxed a lot. Just as he was about to speed up the recovery of his mental strength so that he could leave this place as soon as possible, the mournful howl sounded again. However, this time the howl was more real. It seemed to be in human language. "I'm finally out again. After being sealed in the een of the earth for thousands of years, I've finally regained my freedom." Nian Bing's heart tightened. She remembered what Hillard had said and did not dare to be negligent. She immediately summoned the light that pierced through heaven and earth from the space node, the holy radiance blade. In an instant the golden light flowed. Her eyes, which had adapted to the darkness, suddenly felt a stinging pain. It took a long time for her to return to normal. With the golden light on the holy radiance blade, Nian Bing saw that Hillard was sitting not far from her. Other than his face being a little pale, there was nothing wrong with him. At this time, he was looking at the holy radiance blade in her hand in surprise. He was so surprised that he could not speak. Last time, when Nian Bing used the holy radiance blade to scare Yu and the other two away, she used magic to seal the light on the blade. Hillard drank a lot with arc light that day, so he did not notice it. At this time, seeing the blade full of light in the darkness, he was shocked. Nian Bing suddenly became more mysterious in his heart. Nian Bing was looking at herself with the axe. Compared to Hillard, she was in a much worse state. Her clothes were torn and blood-stained. If it were not for her strong body, she was afraid that she would have been turned into minced meat. Under the cover of the light aura, both of them felt refreshed and recovered a little. The Tianhua token on Nian Bing's chest felt the aura of the holy radiance blade. It emitted a gentle aura, nourishing Nian Bing's body. Her mental strength recovered a lot at this moment. She looked up and looked around. This was a huge canyon. With the light of the holy radiance blade, she could not see the end of the canyon. The canyon was about 30 feet wide, and the surrounding towering stone walls were actually black. Nian Bing was surprised to find that, in this place, the light of the holy radiance blade was suppressed to a certain extent. It was not as bright as when she first entered, but the aura of light still shrouded a radius of 10 feet, making the evil aura unable to approach. Nianbing, where did you get this saber? Hillard looked at the holy radiance saber in Nianbing's hand in bewilderment. He kept thinking about it in his mind. In this place where the evil aura was so strong, it could repel the evil aura with just the aura of the saber itself. This was definitely not an ordinary saber. How could he not be puzzled? It was red, blue, and not this golden long blade filled with the aura of light in front of him. It was a priceless treasure. As a mage, how could Nianbing have so many treasures? With a faint smile, Nianbing said, "This saber was given to me by a friend. Senior, with this saber, will you be able to protect your pet and fly us out? The evil aura here is too strong. Shouldn't we leave as soon as possible?" With Hillard's pet, they flew out. It was much easier than using magic to fly out. Furthermore, his magic power had not yet recovered to its optimal state. Hillard nodded and said, "Okay, let's leave this place first." He slowly got up. Just as he was about to chant a spell to summon his pet, the shrill voice sounded again. The evil aura around them fluctuated violently. "Since you're here, don't leave. After thousands of years of loneliness, I didn't expect to see humans again. Human, I have to thank you for letting me out." Nianbing's heart tightened. She sincerely stepped forward and stood beside Hillard. With the light of the holy radiance saber, the two saw a black figure slowly approaching them. The black figure was tall and thin. He did not seem to be walking on his feet. He floated forward steadily. Hillard's eyes flashed. He shouted coldly, "Who's there? Human? I'm not a human anymore." What a hateful aura of light. Back then, this aura of the magicians forcefully suppressed me in this bottomless abyss. However, seeing that you released me, I will suck all of your blood essence and leave you with intact corpses. As they got closer, Nianbing and Hillard finally saw that the evil voice did not come from a person. It came from a cloud of black fog. The thick evil fog floated slowly. All the evil aura in the surroundings seemed to be gathering in its direction. The entire cloud of fog had countless fog tentacles extending outward. It looked extremely strange. Hillard was experienced and knowledgeable. When he saw the scene in front of him, he could not help but gasp. "Nether Witch? You're a Nether Witch? You can actually see through my identity. You're not simple. It seems that you humans haven't completely forgotten about us. The aura of both of you is very good. You have a very rich magical aura. As long as I absorb your blood, I can make another breakthrough. Maybe I can reach the realm of Great Nether Witch. I'll destroy the entire human race, and then find those hateful bastards to settle accounts." Hearing Hillard call out the two words, Nether Witch, Nianbing's heart suddenly turned cold. She had also heard of the existence of Nether Witches. It was read in an ancient book on the 4th floor of the Ice Moon Empire's Magic Guild. The so-called Nether Witch was a mutated form of dark magicians. It was also one of the two forms of dark magicians that were most difficult to cultivate. After a dark magician reached the realm of magic shooters, it was very difficult for him to increase his strength because the backlash from dark magic was extremely strong. Although the dark magic law was the most powerful magic of all elements, its weakness was that the caster would be devoured by the darkness. Therefore, dark magicians who reached the realm of magic shooters only had three choices. One was to stop cultivating dark magic and work hard to strengthen their bodies with various magic items. When their bodies reached a certain level, they could continue cultivating. This method could be regarded as the orthodox way of cultivation for dark magicians, but it was extremely difficult to cultivate. If they were not careful, they would immediately be destroyed by the powerful backlash. Dark magicians cultivated much faster than other elements in the early stages. However, after reaching the realm of magic shooters, they would stagnate because it was difficult for them to make further progress. However, there were still two forbidden cultivation methods in the world of dark magicians. One of them was to cultivate to become a dark magician. The so-called dark magician referred to a dark magician who used a special method to completely abandon his own body, using his flesh and blood as the price in exchange for powerful dark magic power. Although the body was gone, the soul would exist forever. Not only would the dark magic power increase greatly, but they would also no longer be afraid of any physical attack. However, the cultivation method of dark magicians was extremely difficult. Only 1 in 1,000 could succeed. Most of the dark magicians who chose the dark magician cultivation method would end up with their bodies destroyed and their souls scattered. However, it was precisely because the cultivation of dark magicians was extremely difficult. Once they succeeded, they would immediately step into the realm of dark magician. Dark magicians were much more powerful than other magicians of other elements. They had an almost limitless amount of dark magic power and a soul body that was not afraid of physical attack. This made them the nightmare of powerhouses. The cultivation of dark magicians required them to absorb the blood essence of other creatures. Only then would they be able to continuously increase the evil energy in their bodies. According to the book that Nian Bing had read, once a dark magician appeared, they would become the public enemy of all humans. Every time a dark magician appeared, it would bring great disaster to humans. If one wanted to defeat them, they would have to pay a huge price. At this moment, Nian Bing finally understood why this dark magician would say that he had been sealed for thousands of years. If it were a normal human, how could they survive for so long? However, dark magicians were different. They had an endless lifespan unless they were destroyed. Otherwise, they would continue to exist until the day they were destroyed. Those who cultivated dark magicians were the most evil existences. Even the world of dark magicians did not tolerate their existence. After all, dark magicians were too powerful. Moreover, the existence of dark magicians was the greatest threat to other dark magicians who also cultivated dark magicians. This was because dark magicians were the best nourishment for dark magicians. As for the third cultivation method for dark magicians to advance, it was the legendary liches. Liches were the ultimate dark magicians. Although dark magicians could also advance to the realm of God-descending magicians through continuous cultivation, because they did not have a physical body, they were unable to release the most powerful dark magic forbidden spells. However, liches were different. They had their own physical bodies, and could be said to be the advancement of dark magicians. Only dark magicians could cultivate into the strongest dark magicians. They were the true powerhouses of the dark world. When one reached the realm of liches, there was no longer any distinction between good and evil. With their powerful dark magic, even light could not be their nemesis. However, liches only existed in legends. After all, cultivating into a lich was much more difficult than cultivating into a god-descending magician. A lich that had lived for thousands of years was a very powerful existence. Even if he had been sealed, his strength was probably not something a dark magician could compare to. Not to mention that both of them had lost a lot of their strength. Even if they were in perfect condition, it would be difficult for them to contend with the dark magician in front of them. They had really hit the nail on the head this time. Nian Bing had a bitter smile on her face. She subconsciously glanced at Hillard beside her and said in a low voice, "I will try my best to hold him back. You can summon the dragon." Hillard smiled bitterly and said, "I also want to summon the dragon, but Caradiris has gone to participate in their Dragon King party. When will he be back? My mental strength is not enough now, so I can't contact him at all. We can only go all out now. I hope that the sword in your hand can suppress the dark magician more." If he was in perfect condition and had Caradiris by his side, Hillard was absolutely confident that he could fight the lich in front of him. However, in this situation, he no longer had any thoughts of rejoicing. At this moment, there was no point in regretting. Secretly, he seized every second to accumulate his mental strength. The dark magician had endured loneliness for so many years. Now that he finally saw humans, He was not in a hurry to kill Nian Bing and Hillard. In his eyes, the two humans in front of him were his delicacies. There was no possibility of them escaping. Chatter chuckled again. Which one of you destroyed the seal? Your method of destruction is pretty good. It should be something like a divine restriction. Unfortunately, the energy was a little weak. Only with my strength did I manage to destroy the seal that had trapped me for so many years. Tell me, what method did you use? Nian Bing's heart skipped a beat. She understood that both she and Hillard needed time to recover their magic power. The more power they recovered, the more likely they would be able to escape. She smiled and said, "Respected Mr. Dark Magician, I was the one who destroyed the seal. I just drew a magic circle by accident. I didn't expect to release you. Are you the only one in this abyss? You are really powerful. This is the first time I've felt such a strong evil aura." Hearing Nian Bing's praise, the Dark Magician seemed to feel very comfortable. "I wasn't the only one here. Kid, don't use the word human to describe me. I've said it before. I'm not a human anymore. Back then, when the 8 of us were running amok on the continent, we would kill anyone who stood in our way. Damn it. Later on, those bastards who called themselves gods broke the hateful divine restriction and self-destructed to create a huge amount of energy. I was about to reach the Lich realm, but I was forcefully destroyed by their divine restriction. In order to survive, I had no choice but to take the risk and transform into a dark magician. Out of the 8 of us, only Emperor Kurobutsu and I survived, but we were sealed in this place. The strong evil aura you felt was left behind by those 6 idiots who died. I alone don't have that much evil aura. It's a pity that I don't have any blood essence to absorb. Otherwise, I would have transformed this evil aura into my body long ago. If I had succeeded, I would have become the first person who cultivated from a dark magician to become a sorcerer god. At that time, I would even be able to reconstruct my body." Hearing this, Nian Bing's and Hillard's hearts sank. A dark magician who was close to the Lich realm transformed into a dark magician, how powerful would he be? In other words, before he transformed into a dark magician, he had already surpassed the dark magician realm. Perhaps even the only god-descending magician on the continent, the Ice Goddess, might not be his match. The dark magician's black fog rippled. "Kid, put away your broken blade. Damn it, although the light has no effect on me now, this aura is still annoying." Nian Bing said, "Respected Mr. Dark Magician, if I put away my blade, I won't be able to see your great form. Anyway, it can't hurt you, so let me hold it." What a joke. Putting away the Holy Radiance blade would only make them die faster. With the light aura of the Holy Radiance blade, at least Ling Nian Bing and Hillard felt safer. The Dark Magician snorted. "What, do you think I'm afraid of this blade? Alright, I'll let you see my strength." As soon as he finished speaking, a tentacle formed from black fog reached in front of Nian Bing like lightning. Nian Bing didn't have time to react at all. She felt as if her body had fallen into an ice cellar, and her blood seemed to have completely frozen at this moment. The Holy Radiance blade in her hand had already been swept away by the black tentacle. Just as the Dark Magician said, the golden light of the Holy Radiance blade couldn't hurt the tentacle at all. The Dark Magician brought the Holy Radiance blade to his black fog. The black fog suddenly expanded and completely swallowed the Holy Radiance blade. The golden light disappeared, and the surroundings became dark again. Did you see that? The light has an effect on me. No one can stop me, Safin, from doing what I want to do. I haven't spoken for thousands of years, and now I have so much more. Ah! Bastard, it's actually Sacred Teacher's Dawnblade. Damn it, why am I so unlucky? Safin's voice gradually weakened, but the white light became more and more intense. The Holy Brilliance saber floated in the air, looking so pure and holy. The pure white light on the saber made Nian Bing and Hillard feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. The two of them looked at each other in surprise, reading the joy in each other's eyes. They had really come back from death's door. Who would have thought that the holy radiance blade would be able to injure the lich in front of them? Underworld, which Safin seemed to be still resisting, the black mist that was as thick as liquid continued to churn. Hillard activated it. His eyes gradually turned white as he chanted loudly, "The gate of spirit. Open with my spirit, transcend the limits of time and space, and release the boundless ripples." Spirit ripples. Every word that came out of his mouth shook Nian Bing's heart like a morning bell. With every word that came out of his mouth, the black mist would ripple violently. Its resistance to the white light released by the holy brilliance saber would also weaken. When the last word came out of his mouth, Nian Bing could clearly feel an enormous amount of spirit ripple violently in the air. It was like a sharp blade cutting through the dark magician's black mist. Nian Bing secretly rejoiced in his heart. Although he could already use 5 types of mimicry spells, he was afraid that it would be useless against a psychopath like Hillard. It was no wonder that he was willing to let him draw the magic array earlier. With such powerful spirit magic, how could she not be confident? The most frightening thing about spirit magic was that it was not affected by any other energy. Unless the opponent's spirit was stronger than the caster's, it would be very difficult to connect. This was also the reason why Hillard had such a high status in Arclight. He was a powerful dragon summoner, and possessed powerful magic that would make anyone fear. Although he was not as powerful as a god-sent priest or a priest of the ice goddess, there were very few magicians on the continent who could contend against Hillard. Under the attack of the spirit magic, dark magician Safin's resistance was greatly weakened, and his shrill screams became much weaker. Even Nian Bing did not expect that the saber used by the sacred teacher would be so powerful. In fact, when Garamandes told her about the sacred teacher, he only gave a rough description. Back then, after the sacred teacher became famous in the Yangon continent, he used the Blade of Dawn to deal with all the injustices in the world. The saber was a good one, and the sacred teacher's righteous aura was subtly absorbed by the saber. This was no longer a pure aura, but the holy aura of the sacred teacher. The dark magician was originally a practitioner of the most evil in the world. He carelessly sucked the holy saber into his body and wanted to completely crush it, but he completely activated the holy aura inside the holy saber. All kinds of positive aura burst out. Not only Safin, but even a powerful lich would not have a good ending if he swallowed the saber. Safin's resistance was getting weaker and weaker, and the black aura dispersed. Finally, when the shrill screams stopped, everything returned to normal. The holy saber fell out of the air and stabbed into the ground under its own weight. More than 80% of the evil aura in the entire abyss was swept away by the holy aura of the holy glory. Only a faint evil aura was faintly emitted in the distance, but it did not dare to approach the holy saber. The pure white light of the holy saber did not disappear, but became even more holy, and the entire saber was dyed white like jade. Nian Bing let out a long breath. Just as she was about to retrieve the precious saber that saved her and Hillard's life, something happened again. A layer of holy aura was emitted from the holy glory stone at the hilt of the saber. It condensed into a ball in the air and gradually formed a blurry human figure. Nian Bing was shocked and could not help but put her foot down. Hillard was also shocked and subconsciously prepared to attack with spirit magic. A low and ethereal voice slowly sounded. "I did not expect that the spirit imprint I left in the saber would be activated. Brave humans, you did not retreat in the face of an enemy like the Dark Witch. It seems that humans are much stronger than before." Although the blurry human figure's appearance could not be seen clearly, its tall figure gave Nian Bing and Hillard a lot of pressure. Nian Bing and Hillard looked at each other and asked tentatively, "Are you the sacred teacher? How did you?" The white light rippled slightly and said, "That's right. I am the magician who seeks the sacred teacher that the Dark Witch spoke of." This dawn saber has been with me for many years and has killed countless evil people. Young man, are you its master now? You are indeed worthy of this saber. Back then, when your blood soaked into the saber, I could already feel it from afar. Although there are many impurities in your aura, your heart is kind. Although the path you walk is different from mine, one day you will also become a person like me. However, before that, you must guard your heart and not be blinded by hatred. I can feel that your body's structure is very different from that of an ordinary human. It can be said that you are not a simple human. Even I am very surprised by the potential you possess. Properly develop your potential. Alright, after this spirit imprint of mine is activated, it can only be maintained for a short period of time. I will not appear again in the future. This holy radiance saber will completely become your weapon. Use it well and don't let its brilliance be tarnished. I hope that one day, when you reach the same realm as us, we can meet again. Come with me. There is something you need here before my aura completely dissipates. I will guide you to subdue it. With it, your strength will be greatly enhanced. As soon as he finished speaking, the white light stretched out a hand-shaped radiance and grabbed the holy radiance saber, slowly floating towards the depths of this bottomless abyss. Nian Bing and Hillard hurriedly followed. The white light didn't float very fast. Their speed was just enough to keep up. While walking, Nian Bing couldn't help but ask, "Sacred Teacher, do you know that dark witch from just now?" He said that he had been sealed here for several thousand years. At that time, there were 8 dark powerhouses like him. Sacred Teacher said indifferently, "That's right. This dark witch Safin was a figure of the same generation as me. At that time, there were 8 of them in total. 4 of them chose to cultivate as earth liches. However, none of them succeeded. The other 4 were dark warriors. They used their tyrannical dark Do Chi to become fierce. The 8 of them once brought great calamity to humanity. Wherever they passed, not a single blade of grass would grow. At that time, I was still no match for them. However, they were too ferocious and killed countless people. Once, I encountered them and fought them to the death. Just as I was about to be killed, the light of God finally shrouded the earth. The 8 of them were already close to the power of God. In order to exterminate them, a god exhausted his life force to create a powerful restriction. In the end, only Safin and Emperor Kurobutsu survived. In several generations, they were the strongest of the 8. Safin and the other 3 dark magi couldn't advance to Lich at the last moment and chose to switch to Dark Witch. With their powerful dark abilities, they had a high chance of success. But even so, Safin was the only one who survived. Later, the power of the forbidden land of the gods weakened and wasn't enough to kill Safin and the Dark Warrior. Thus, they were sealed here in the suburbs of the capital. Without the supply of blood essence, the Dark Witch would gradually die. But unexpectedly, Safin used the evil aura of his companions and a dark treasure to forcefully suppress his dark aura. That was how he managed to survive until today. Emperor Kurobutsu was still a human after all. He died long ago. Originally, Safin wouldn't have been able to hold on for another 100 years. Without the supply of blood essence, the Dark Witch would have gradually died. But unexpectedly, Safin used the evil aura of his companions and a dark treasure to forcefully suppress his own dark aura. That was how he managed to survive until today. Emperor Kurobutsu was still a human after all, and he died long ago. Originally, Safin wouldn't have been able to hold on for another 100 years. Without the supply of blood essence, the Dark Witch would have gradually died. But unexpectedly, Safin used the evil aura of his companions and a dark treasure to forcefully suppress his dark aura. Fortunately, you have my blade, and that underworld which Safin carelessly absorbed the blade into his body, resulting in his death. Child, do you know? You almost caused a calamity for the human race. Wait until I bring you to retrieve that thing, then we will absorb all the remaining evil energy here, so as to prevent it from harming the human race. Nian Bing's back was drenched in cold sweat, nodding repeatedly, saying, "This time it was my negligence. I didn't expect that the array formation would cause such a huge disturbance." The sacred teacher sighed, saying, "Even we didn't expect that the key array formation from back then would still be recorded in the Yangon continent. Nianbing, could it be that you didn't feel that the array formation didn't have any special effects? Not only is it extremely complicated to draw, it also consumes a huge amount of spiritual energy, but the effect isn't very good, and it will even backfire on the user." Nianbing smiled bitterly. "When I was researching this array formation, the magicians thought that its structure was strange and complicated, and it had lost the most important activation part, so I researched it on a whim. Later on, I discovered that using the same source of fire and ice could activate this array formation. Today, when facing Senior Hillard, this array formation was extremely effective, but I didn't expect that an underworld which would be sealed here." The sacred teacher said indifferently, "The past is the past. In the future, whatever you do, you have to think carefully about whether you regret it. You must remember my words, don't let hatred blind your eyes." Nianbing's body trembled as he protested, "But how can I not avenge my father? My parents can't let me die in vain." The sacred teacher sighed, saying, "It's not appropriate for me to get involved in the matters of the Yangon continent. You have to take care of yourself." This time, after the spiritual imprint was activated, I discovered that the Yangon continent has entered a rare period of peace. As long as there are no more disasters, it's good. The two people and the knife gradually walked into the depths of the darkness. The place where Nianbing and Hillard were originally at became deserted again. A faint black gas condensed, forming a small black fog, underworld which Safin's deep voice was filled with anger. "Bastard, sacred teacher, you bastard, you actually destroyed so much of my cultivation. Fortunately, I have mastered the ability of Dark World's doppelganger, otherwise I would have been killed by you. Just you wait, after I recover my magical power, I will definitely show you." Safin didn't die, although his current strength was less than 1% of his peak. But he firmly believed that as long as he had enough blood essence, he would be able to cultivate back to his peak in a short time. After all, he still had the foundation of being an underworld witch. Sensing that the evil aura in the surroundings had weakened by 80%, Safin knew that he had to leave this place as soon as possible. The most important thing was to recover his strength first. Just as Safin was about to float away, a huge figure flew down from the sky. A soft sound of surprise rang out, the huge wings retracted, and a petite figure jumped to the ground. "We finally reached the bottom. After flying so far, it's so tiring. Brother Ping Chao, your back is so hard, next time you should prepare a cushion." Seeing that someone else had come, Safin immediately lay on the ground, not daring to make a sound. He wasn't as strong as before. This vampire's aura wasn't weak. It wasn't something he could deal with now. Ping Chao smiled bitterly in his heart. The one who flew hundreds of kilometers was him. She was sitting comfortably on his back, and she was actually complaining about being tired. This was really unreasonable, but after all, Yu was his little master. What could he say? Looking around, he asked in confusion, "Why is the aura of darkness here so much weaker? The aura I felt in Taru City was much stronger than this. No, something must have happened here. I summon you with my soul, open my eye of darkness." Hearing Ping Chao's incantation, Safin couldn't help but have a bad feeling, but he was now extremely weak. The little bit of energy he had accumulated with great difficulty was no longer enough for him to hide or escape. The faint green light swept out in a fan shape. The first thing Ping Chao noticed was Underworld Witch Safin's existence. Chapter 93. Even with Ping Chao's steel-like nerves, he couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Safin. He shouted, "Dark Witch!" He immediately blocked in front of Yu and raised his abilities to the limit. His blood-red eyes shone with a terrifying light. Yu was stunned at first. Then, she curiously poked her head out from under the armpit and looked at the dark witch that appeared in the green light of the Eye of Darkness. She giggled and said, "What a cute little dark witch! Brother Ping Chao, are you sure he's a dark witch? My father said that dark witches are extremely powerful dark ones, but he doesn't look powerful at all. Ping Chao frowned. He kept gathering his dark energy while observing the dark witch in front of him. At this moment, Safin was complaining in his heart. He knew that he couldn't run now because he couldn't run fast with his current abilities. Once he ran, the other party would immediately realize how weak he was. They were all dark ones, so how could they let him go? He had no choice but to pretend to be cold and said, "That's right, I'm the great dark witch. You two juniors, aren't you afraid of being destroyed for trespassing into my territory?" Ping Chao said, "Senior Dark Witch, we rushed over because we sensed your aura. My master wishes to unite all the dark forces and create a business together. Would you be willing to work with us?" As he spoke, he secretly released his dark energy and probed Dark Witch Safin. He had also sensed the problem Yu was talking about. Dark witches were extremely powerful beings. However, this small black fog in front of him didn't give him any sense of oppression. This didn't make sense. However, the black fog spoke in a human voice, and it was filled with the aura of death and evil. He was obviously a real dark witch. Ping Chao was confused for a moment, and he secretly sensed Safin's abilities. Safin snorted and said, "I'm not interested in working with you. As a powerful dark witch, I don't need to work with anyone. Since we're from the same origin, you can leave. Otherwise, I won't be polite." Yu giggled. She came out from behind Ping Chao and said, "Won't be polite? Why won't you be polite? You look so weak, like a child. Great dark energy. Please turn into an endless demonic barrier and cover everything in front of you. Show the real world eyes of truth." Yu's beautiful big black eyes emitted a bright light that rippled outwards. A trace of green light flashed through her beautiful eyes. In the next moment, she had already observed the situation around her. Although the darkness aura here was not weak, it was not weak. However, it was far from being as strong as Ping Chao had described it to be, and the small ball of black mist in front of him was pitifully weak. Even his own dark magic energy could easily surpass it. Is there such a weak dark wizard? This is the first time I've seen one. Daddy said that my baby Greenie needs a soul to become a more powerful magic tool. Since you are a little dark witch, why don't you give it to me? Since you're little, since yours go. The green light suddenly shone brightly, and the green skull that was used to deal with Kitty suddenly appeared in front of Serene. Serene green flames spurted out from the skull's eyes, and turned into green flame threads that wrapped around Underworld Witch Safin. At this moment, Safin knew that no matter how much she tried to intimidate him, it would be useless. She had no choice but to gather the last of her magic power and quickly flee into the air. The black fog condensed into a small black and purple ball, and like a star, it shot into the darkness above. After all, Yu was still too inexperienced. She was still unable to display the full power of her magic tool. Sapine suddenly sped up and rushed out of the threads formed by the green flames. However, Sapine had already lost her composure and suddenly revealed her cowardice. How could she be led off by someone who was also a member of the darkness? "Go back." A cold voice echoed above Safin. If there were a few abilities that vampires were most proficient in, then speed would definitely be one of them. Dark Wizard Safin could easily deal with Ping Chao at his peak, but he was no match for Ping Chao in his current state. A huge dark aura pressed down like a black cloud. Safin felt his body tighten, as if he had fallen into a swamp. He couldn't break free no matter how hard he tried. At this moment, Yu had already commanded her green flames to wrap around Sapine. With Ping Chao's help, it accurately wrapped around Sapine. Sapine was gloomy. He had never thought that after being sealed for thousands of years, he would encounter such a situation when he finally managed to escape from the sea of suffering. Before he could think of anything else, the dark purple ball of energy that his body had transformed into was sucked into the mouth of the skull in front of Yu under the effect of the green flames. Yu made a few consecutive hand gestures, and the skull emitted a bright green light, completely isolating the aura of the outside world from the inside. Although Yu was just a cute little girl on the surface, and sometimes she would be impulsive because of her own preferences, but the various dark magic that she had cultivated with her father since she was young was extremely pure. She completely knew what to do in any situation. Retrieving the green skull, Yu looked at Vampire Ping Chao and asked, "Big brother Ping Chao, do you think this little ball is really the Dark Witch?" Ping Chao nodded and said, "It definitely is. When I came into contact with his body just now, I discovered that although his dark energy is extremely weak, he is definitely a Dark Witch. His spiritual aura is very strong, but I don't know why he suffered such a huge injury, which is why he is so weak. You have obtained a priceless treasure this time. With the Dark Witch as the soul, you will definitely be able to create an extremely powerful magic tool. However, you better not use Little Green now. I'm afraid that you won't be able to control the Dark Witch and let him escape. Let's go quickly. When we get back, I will ask Master to perfect this magic tool for you. Dark witches are very rare in this world, and those who choose to cultivate dark witches and succeed are pitifully few. I think Master might know the origin of this Dark Witch. With Master's 9 underworld demonic fire, he will definitely be able to find out everything about this Dark Witch. With him, little Master Yu's strength will definitely increase by leaps and bounds. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened here in the past, but the originally dense dark aura has become much thinner. Otherwise, this would be a very suitable place for you to cultivate. Let's go." After saying that, Ping Chao lowered his body and transformed back into a huge bat. Yu jumped onto Ping Chao's back. "Brother Ping Chao, you have to fly faster. I like the feeling of speed. Sigh, when we get back, I will definitely ask Father to help you become a count as soon as possible. That way, you will be able to fly even faster." The pitiful Dark Witch Safin had become the soul of Yu's magic tool just like that, unable to realize his dream. He could only lament within the green skull. Yu and Ping Chao quickly left this dark abyss. At this time, Nian Bing and Hillard were following Holy Blade into the deepest part of the dark abyss. The dark abyss was exceptionally clear under Holy Blade's light. There was no road at all, and the intricate terrain was extremely difficult to traverse. Nian Bing and Hillard each cast a 4th-rank wind spell, levitation, on each of them, so that it would not be difficult for them to advance. Hillard couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Nian Bing cast a wind spell. However, he didn't ask Nian Bing about it at this time. Although the 4th-order levitation spell wasn't considered a powerful spell, it was a sign that a wind magician had advanced from the intermediate level to the advanced level. Although the levitation spell couldn't allow one to fly, it was a very practical spell that consumed very little mana. It was most suitable to be used in places with complicated terrains, and would be very effective. "We're here." Holy Blade, which was floating in the air, slowly came to a stop. Nian Bing looked through the light of Holy Blade and discovered that they had arrived at the end of the abyss. In front of him was a 100,000-foot high wall that towered into the darkness. And at the bottom of this wall was a strange skeleton. The reason it was strange was because this skeleton was actually pure black in color. The black skeleton looked abnormally strange. Sitting on the wall behind it, the skeleton's skeletal hands held a long blade tightly. This long blade was different from the Holy Glory blade because it wasn't wide and thick. The blade and scabbard were only 1 inch wide, but it was longer than the Holy Glory blade. If it wasn't for the extremely strong light on the Holy Glory blade, it would be impossible to discover this pitch-black blade in the darkness. Under the light of the Holy Glory blade, the black thin blade trembled slightly. It wasn't trembling out of fear, but rather a kind of challenge, as if it had encountered a strong opponent. A small gem was inlaid at the end of the hilt. The gem was purple and triangular, and the sharp tail of the gem poked out from the back of the hilt. It seemed that the gem itself was one of the attack methods of this blade. The dark purple gem didn't shine, and there was a faint layer of black air surrounding it, covering the reflection of the gem. Emperor Kurobutsu can be said to be the pinnacle of the warriors in the dark world, but he died here. Speaking of which, it's really sad. The sacred teacher's tone was a bit emotional, but there was also a bit of respect in his voice. The opponent that he respected, Nian Bing and Hillard couldn't help but look at him in a new light. This Emperor Kurobutsu must have had a legendary life. Emperor Kurobutsu, in our era, was the pinnacle that no dark warrior could surpass. That's why he was called the Martial Emperor. After I started my martial arts career, I fought with him 3 times. The first time, he almost killed me with a knife. The second time, he used 2 knives. The third time, he used 3 knives. The third time, after he defeated me, he told me that he could have easily killed me, but he felt that I had great potential and could gradually become his knife tester, so he spared my life. In order to catch up with Emperor Kurobutsu's strength, I kept working hard. However, until the last time I saw him, I still couldn't withstand more than 100 knives from him. Among the 8 Emperor Kurobutsu and the others, the most cunning one was the underworld witch Safin, but the one who had the strength to contend with God and could make God explode to destroy him was Emperor Kurobut. At that time, 70% of the power of God's explosion was targeted at Emperor Kurobutsu. However, he still survived, which showed how powerful he was. In fact, Emperor Kurobutsu wasn't really evil. He was just a martial arts addict. In order to cultivate to a higher level of martial arts, he threw himself into the darkness. When he finally faced the god's prohibition, he had already surpassed the level of God Master on the continent. He had reached a level that even God feared. That's why he had to use God's explosion to destroy him. Otherwise, he would have challenged God's domain sooner or later. The respect in Sacred Teacher's voice became more and more obvious. The light on the Holy Radiance sword was obviously dimmer than before. Do you see the sword in Emperor Kurobutsu's hand? That's the Dark World's 3rd demonic weapon, the demon-devouring sword. In Emperor Kurobutsu's hands, this sword was almost invincible. The 3 strikes that I mentioned earlier were all done before the Emperor Kurobutsu left the scabbard. Emperor Kurobutsu only had this sword in his heart. This sword had already completely merged with his essence, chi, and spirit. In the later stages of Emperor Kurobutsu's cultivation, he used his soul as a sword. His entire being had completely merged with the demon-devouring sword. That was the power that could split the heavens and earth. Although my Dawn sword has reached the level of a divine weapon due to the increase in holy power, it can't be compared to this demon-devouring sword. However, with this holy radiance stone embedded in it, it shouldn't be much worse than this demon-devouring sword. Nianbing, you're lucky. Each of your swords has an extraordinary origin. At the same time, they all have powerful energy. In fact, you don't need to pursue other cultivation methods in the process of cultivation. As long as you have the power to fully activate these swords, then you're already a powerful magician. This is the first time I've seen someone use human strength to cultivate mimicry magic. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. Emperor Kurobutsu's demon-devouring sword can completely fill the gap in your dark world. However, although Emperor Kurobutsu is dead, it won't be easy for you to gain the recognition of this demon-devouring sword. You'll have to pay the price of your flesh and blood. If you fail, you'll at least become disabled. Are you willing to try? Nianbing was silent. As long as one was human, they wouldn't want to become disabled. However, after listening to the sacred teacher's explanation to Emperor Kurobutsu, it was impossible for him not to be tempted by this thin demon-devouring sword. From the day he started cultivating mimicry magic, Nianbing knew how difficult it was to gather all 7 swords. Especially the magic swords with dark and space elements. Not to mention the highest quality ones, even the most ordinary ones were very precious and hard to find. especially the dark element magic items. They were taboo in the mainland, let alone the highest quality ones. Facing the demon-devouring sword now could be said to be the best opportunity. If he could have it, the only thing he lacked was the earth element magic swords. Darkness was mysterious to Nian Bing. At the same time, it was also the field he wanted to explore the most. Hillard looked at Nian Bing. Although he hated the dark element the most, he believed the sacred teacher's words without a doubt. What was mimicry magic? Could it be that Nian Bing could use all types of magic? Would he want this saber? Under the circumstances that he might have to pay the price of being disabled. If it were him, what would he choose? The answer was blank. Hillard also understood how difficult this choice was. After a long while, Nian Bing slowly raised his head. His eyes had become calm. There was a soft glow in his clear eyes, without any fluctuations of emotion. He calmly said to the sacred teacher, "I'm willing to try." It was only a simple 5 words, but it represented a lot of courage. Nian Bing's calmness deeply shocked Hillard's heart. It gave him a new understanding of the young man in front of him. He suddenly had a feeling that he was not as good as his daughter when it came to judging people. The young man in front of him was indeed outstanding. He was so outstanding, not only because of his strange magic, but also because of his temperament. Hillard looked deeply at Nian Bing. His eyes had become soft. In fact, as early as when he and Nian Bing fell into the abyss, he had already given up all thoughts of harming Nian Bing. Nian Bing did not say, but Hillard was very curious about how Nian Bing's injuries came about. When they fell into the abyss from the crack, both of their spiritual powers were very weak, especially Hillard. His spiritual powers were limited, so he could not use his spiritual magic at all, let alone summon his pet. Hillard closed his eyes and waited for his death. However, he did not die. It was Nian Bing who grabbed his arm in midair. Nian Bing's spiritual power was also very weak. When she used spatial magic to slow down, the speed of her descent was getting faster and faster. In order to survive, Nian Bing pulled Hillard as close as possible to the stone wall of the abyss and used spatial magic every time. She used all her strength to kick the stone wall a few times and used spatial magic to slow down the speed of their descent. At that time, Nian Bing used her body to protect Hillard. The scars on his body were all made by the stone wall, but Hillard was unscathed as he landed on the ground. Hillard had mixed feelings. Although he tried to maintain a calm appearance, his heart was already in turmoil. When underworld sorcerer Safin appeared, Hillard secretly decided that even if he had to sacrifice his life, he would save Nian Bing and return the favor. However, in the end, it was Nian Bing's saber that saved them. At this moment, in order to obtain more power, Nian Bing resolutely chose to try. Hillard admitted that he could not compare to this kind of courage. The sacred teacher's voice became even more benevolent. "Nian Bing, do you really want to ask Chu for help? There is no medicine for regret in this world, even on the continent of gods. I hope you can understand." Nian Bing nodded firmly. "I am willing to try. How can I get something without paying a price? I understand this. Sacred teacher, please tell me what to do." The sacred teacher said, "I have brought you here and told you the price you may have to pay. As for what to do, it is up to you. If you want the demon-devouring saber to acknowledge you, it is equivalent to gaining Emperor Kurobutsu's approval. This depends on your determination. I believe that you will succeed." Nian Bing was slightly stunned. "Do you want me to think of a way?" A blank look flashed across her eyes. She nodded and walked with firm steps to Emperor Kurobutsu's remains. Without touching or testing, Nian Bing could clearly feel the steel-like feeling of the black skeleton left behind by Emperor Kurobutsu. It was no wonder that the sacred teacher praised her so much for being able to practice martial arts to such a degree. A faint smile appeared on Nian Bing's face. She knelt on one knee and firmly reached out her hand to grasp the end of the demon-devouring saber. The black scabbard was so icy. It was completely different from the morning dew saber. In an instant, Nian Bing's body trembled violently. All kinds of illusions kept appearing in her mind. The illusions were not very clear, but Nian Bing seemed to see everything that had happened to Emperor Kurobutsu when he was alive. Those scenes were filled with a feeling of power. This thin saber in Emperor Kurobutsu's hands was filled with a domineering aura that filled heaven and earth. Vaguely, Nian Bing seemed to feel that Emperor Kurobutsu was not dead. The cold dark aura was so pure. The pure darkness contained evil that was many times more powerful than before the holy radiance saber dispelled it. The evil power of ice kept stimulating Nian Bing's body, as if it was about to trigger something. The heavenly flower token emitted a gentle aura. Under its guidance, the power of ice and fire was completely released, fusing into a red and blue ball of light. Although it could not dispel the evil aura, it could protect her mind and cooperate with the heavenly flower token to prevent her mind from being invaded by evil. What Hillard saw from the outside was another scene. Nian Bing was kneeling on one knee. His body was surrounded by red and blue light, and the outermost layer was a circle of holy white aura. The demon-devouring saber was full of darkness. Black foam covered the skeleton left by Emperor Kurobutsu. It seemed to be an exchange of energy, but it also seemed to be a mutual attack. Hillard knew that at this moment, no one could help Nian Bing. The only person who could help him was himself. Unconsciously, Hillard had already clenched his fists. He suddenly realized that this young man who repaid evil with kindness was so important in his heart. Nian Bing did not know how much time had passed. At the last moment, all the illusions merged together. All he saw was a saber, the demon-devouring saber. It was a domineering and evil saber. When Nian Bing opened his eyes, he found that he had already stood up. The demon-devouring saber that Emperor Kurobutsu held tightly in his hand was also in his hand. In contrast to the holy radiance saber, this narrow saber seemed to be weightless in his hand. It was extremely light in his hand. The cold evil aura on the saber was like a silent demonic beast that was always calm. Nian Bing understood that he had yet to gain the recognition of this saber. He had only gone through the first test of the demon-devouring saber and the Black Martial Emperor. He firmly believed that this saber had its own spirituality. Furthermore, its spirituality was the best of all the treasured sabers he had obtained so far. He held the scabbard with one hand and the hilt with the other. Bing Ling felt that the saber seemed to be more powerful, especially the evil aura. Nian Bing understood that the time to test himself had come. A faint cold light appeared in his eyes. Nian Bing pulled the demon-devouring saber out of the scabbard with his right hand. The saber was the same as the scabbard. It was also dim. Even under the light of the holy radiance saber, there was no reflection. Nian Bing held the hilt and slowly raised the demon-devouring saber. The black saber was only slightly curved in front. Although the saber was very thin and light, it was filled with a sense of fullness when held in his hand. It was as if the saber could cut through all obstacles. His wrist moved slightly and looked at the pure black saber. Nian Bing said softly, "Demon-devouring saber, demon-devouring saber, from now on, I am your new master. I am not as powerful as Senior Black Martial Emperor, but I will not let you be humiliated. One day, I will let you shine with the most dazzling brilliance." After saying the last sentence, Nian Bing's eyes suddenly shone brightly. Amid Hillard's exclamation, he threw the demon-devouring saber into the air. The demon-devouring saber disappeared in the air. Nian Bing stretched his left arm out to the side and closed his eyes. His purpose was very simple. He wanted to use his left arm to gamble whether the demon-devouring saber would accept him. He firmly believed that sabers had spirituality. Hillard's heart suddenly tightened, but he did not stop Nian Bing. Since Nian Bing had made his choice, he respected this courageous choice. The spinning saber appeared again, but it was not as fast as when it was thrown up. It fell in the direction of Nian Bing's left arm. No one doubted that if the saber fell on Nian Bing's left arm, it would definitely be cut off. Hillard closed his eyes. With a soft clink, the blade fell to the ground. Half of the blade was already embedded in the hard rock. Nian Bing and Hillard opened their eyes at the same time. Their target was Nian Bing's left arm. His left arm was still there, but there was a thin red mark on his forearm. Fresh blood dripped from the red mark and dripped onto the sharp purple gem on the handle of the demon-devouring blade. The gem was dyed red, and the originally dull blade suddenly burst with a red glow. The purple gem lit up like a lamp. Although it was not as bright as the other gems in Nian Bing's possession, it contained a large amount of dark energy. The moment it lit up, the light on the demon-devouring blade fluctuated violently and weakened by half. With a soft hum, the demon-devouring saber trembled slightly. It was a sound of desire, as if it was reawakened by Nian Bing's blood. A strange scene appeared. Emperor Kurobutsu's steel-like black skeleton suddenly changed. The black skeleton melted like snow, forming a cloud of black powder that floated up and surged toward the red light on the saber. When the red light came into contact with the black powder, it completely digested the black powder. The powder gradually disappeared, and the red light on the saber turned dark red. The light on the purple gem gradually faded and returned to its original appearance. A circle of black air floated up from the saber and wrapped around Nian Bing's left arm. With a bang, the saber flew toward Nian Bing's hand under the guidance of the black air. Nian Bing subconsciously opened her palm and firmly grasped the handle of the demon-devouring saber. When she touched it again, it felt completely different. Although the evil was still there was no sense of invasion. As if it was connected to her flesh and blood, the demon-devouring saber seemed to have become an extension of her left arm. She slowly raised her arm. Holding the saber horizontally in front of her eyes, Nian Bing revealed a faint smile on her face. Your courage has been acknowledged by the devouring devil. Use it well. No matter how evil a blade is, when used properly, it can still be a blade of justice. I'm going back. Your renamed Holy Radiance blade will no longer have my spiritual imprint. It will truly become your blade. Use it well. Just like you said, don't let these divine blades of yours down. One day, let them shine with the light they deserve. Oh, by the way, there is one thing I need to remind you. When the demon-devouring saber was in Emperor Kurobutsu's hands, it had a title called the Ancestral Curse of Eternal Hell. Once your heart is filled with hatred, there is a possibility that the curse will be activated. Even I don't know what will happen then. I hope that such a situation will not happen. Since it is called a curse, it will not be a good thing. The white radiance also dimmed. With a light ding sound, the Holy Radiance blade was inserted into the ground. The sphere of white light formed by the sacred expert floated away, but the Holy Radiance blade still flickered with a pure and holy white radiance. Nian Bing walked in front of the Holy Radiance saber. She grabbed the handle of the saber and stretched out her arms. The aura of light and darkness stimulated her body at the same time. Ice and fire came from the same source, and the red and blue mana expanded a little under the strong stimulation. Suddenly, clear black air rapidly condensed around the demon-devouring saber. Circles of black air continuously poured into the saber, and the evil aura in the surrounding air rapidly weakened. The demon-devouring saber did not change, but the evil aura it gave Nian Bing became stronger and stronger. Minutes and seconds passed, and Nian Bing still maintained his original position. Finally, when the last of the black air surged towards the demon-devouring saber, its scabbard on the ground turned into powder, and the stone walls around the bottomless abyss turned gray. The original black evil aura completely disappeared. Nian Bing understood. After the demon-devouring saber recognized her as its master, it absorbed all the remaining evil aura and sealed it in its own body. At this time, Nian Bing could not help but feel a little confused. Was it a good thing or a bad thing that she obtained this dark blade? The sacred teacher just said that no matter how evil the saber was, as long as the person was not invaded by evil and hatred, the demon-devouring saber could still be used in the right way. That's right. The saber was not wrong, only the person was wrong. He understood that if he wanted to truly master the demon-devouring saber, he still had a long way to go. Demon-devouring saber, I'll take you to devour all the demons in the world. Previously, when the demon-devouring blade had struck down, its blade had indeed touched Nian Bing's arm. However, it had merely slid past the surface of his arm and landed on the ground as it spun. The red mark on Nian Bing's left arm was only a small wound. Not even his muscles had been injured. Chapter 94. When Nian Bing felt the coldness of the demon-devourer blade, he really thought that he had lost his left arm. However, when the demon-devourer blade touched the ground, he clearly felt the call of the demon-devourer blade to him and its love for Emperor Kuroba. At that time, he understood that he had been recognized by the Dark World's magic weapon and had become its new master. The dimensional ring flashed with a silver light, and Nian Bing kept the holy radiant blade and the demon-devourer blade into its space. Suddenly, the gem on the dimensional ring that did not shine much suddenly shone brightly, and the whole gem completely turned into a crystal-like silver. Under Nian Bing's surprised gaze, the ring seemed to have integrated with his finger. The silver light surrounded his finger and disappeared, but the gem on the ring still maintained its crystal-like silver color. What's going on? Did the dimensional ring change? It has evolved. You have kept so many top-grade treasured blades in this not-so-top-grade ring, and under the influence of various auras, it has slightly evolved into a better spatial magic item. It can make storage magic items evolve, which shows the magic of your treasured blades. Master them well. I believe that one day, you will surpass us seniors and become a strong human being. Nian Bing looked at Hillard and smiled. Senior, thank you. We should go out now. I think you should be able to summon your pet now. Hillard nodded with a smile on his face. He walked to Nian Bing and said, Don't call me senior anymore. I'm older than you. You and Kitty are friends, so just call me uncle. Uncle? Nian Bing looked at Hillard in surprise. You don't object to my relationship with Kitty anymore? Hillard sighed softly. If it's destined by the heavens, how can we force people to do anything? After everything that happened today, I have understood a lot of things. Nian Bing, you repaid evil with kindness. Not only did you not care that I wanted to kill you, but you saved my life after I fell into the abyss. Just for this, I already owe you too much. You're a very good lad. Even if Kitty really chooses you when she grows up, I can rest assured. So, there is nothing to worry about. You and Kitty are friends, and I hope we can be friends too. I owe you my life. Nian Bing stretched her body and smiled. She said, The feeling of the sky being clear after the rain is really wonderful. Uncle Hillard, don't worry. I really do treat Kitty as my little sister. It was getting late. You should go back, or Kitty will be worried. I think it's better for me to leave by myself. The cooking competition in Tala must be over, so there's no point for me to go back. I'll go somewhere else. Only when I have more experience can I grow better. One day we'll meet again. Goodbye, Uncle. Take care. Ice, you are the representative of cold. Fire, you are the source of heat. Ice and fire, please allow me to combine your characteristic. Using your common source as a guide, let's resonate. She crossed her hands in front of her. The red triangle and the blue triangle intersected, forming a red and blue hexagram. The surging magical aura revolved around Nian Bing, and the hexagram in front of her shone brightly. Hillard looked at Nian Bing and smiled. Lad, you taught me a lesson last day. I also believe that one day we will meet again. Bon voyage. Nian Bing nodded with a smile. In the silver light of the dimensional ring, the wind of freedom jumped into Nian Bing's hand. White wind of freedom. You can see everything in the world. You can go to every corner of the earth. I beg you, become my wings and fly with me. Green light surrounded the hexagram of ice and fire. Guided by the wind of freedom, it enveloped Nian Bing's body and levitated into the air. Although the speed was not fast, his body was moving slowly. In the air, Nian Bing waved at Hillard. "Hello, Uncle Hillard." Seeing Nian Bing gradually disappear at the end of the abyss, Hillard smiled. The ability of the dragon's body, a mimicry magic that uses ice and fire as a guide, can be used on a human. Nian Bing, you really are a strange magician. Perhaps you will be the first all-element mage on the continent. I look forward to the day when you shine. Under the protection of the wind, Nian Bing finally flew out of the underground abyss. He breathed in the fresh air of the surface again. The feeling of being reborn made him feel very comfortable. He didn't land immediately. Instead, he simply determined the direction and flew towards the southwest. As he flew, Nian Bing looked at the proud sky sword in his hand. He thought to himself, when will I be able to freely control the mimicry magic without using these magic swords? Only then will I be able to truly master the techniques of this magic. After what had happened last night, Nian Bing had a better understanding of the power of magic arrays. He had been able to suppress a powerful existence like the dragon summoner, Hillard, with just an ancient magic array. If he could dig up more ancient magic arrays, it would be of great benefit to his future magic training. When he thought of the ancient magic array, he couldn't help but think of a place. Although he had only been there once, he clearly remembered how many records of magic arrays there were. His father had once told him that if he could completely comprehend the magic books there, he would at least be able to reach the realm of Magister. This time, he was going to participate in the new magician tournament, so he could think of a way to see if he could successfully sneak in. Somewhere in the Longmu Empire. The air in the forest was always so comfortable, but the atmosphere was not as relaxed as the air. Feng Su looked at the wooden house in front of him with a solemn expression. This was not an ordinary wooden house. Around the wooden house was the most primitive ancient magic array of the Feng people. It was specially used to imprison the criminals of the Feng people. The second one to escape from here was actually you. Feng Yan, oh Feng Yan, you must have never thought that your daughter would be the second one to escape from here. Go, go, all of you go. Do the heavens really want to destroy the entire line of the Feng people? At this point, 2 streams of tears flowed down Feng Su's aged face. He seemed to have aged even more after this stab. Big brother. Feng Kong walked up behind Feng Su. Maybe we pushed her too hard. Feng Nu is still a child after all. Every girl has a longing for love. A red light flashed, and the tears on Feng Su's face evaporated. He snorted coldly. As the hope of the Feng people, she should have known what to give up long ago. Besides, do we lack talented youths? Brother Kong, you don't have to defend her. There is still time before the Phoenix Nirvana ceremony. We must capture Feng Nu, otherwise we won't even have a chance. Kong Di, Feng Nu was the closest to you since she was young. Take Feng Xiang, Feng Di, Feng Yu, and Feng Shun and set off now. I don't believe we can't catch her using her aura. Feng Kong sighed. He wanted to say something else, but when he saw Feng Su's desolate back, he shook his head and turned to leave. Somewhere in the forest, her long pink hair fluttered in the wind as she sped through the forest. She was all too familiar with this forest. Even with her eyes closed, she would never go wrong. I'm sorry, Elder. I have to go. I love Nianbing. Nianbing died because of me, but I didn't even get to see him for the last time. I'm going to collect his body and guard his coffin for 2 years. Don't worry, I'll definitely rush back before the Phoenix Nirvana ceremony. At this moment, Phoenix Maiden's heart was filled with sorrow and longing for Nianbing. Feng Su was wrong about one thing. As the hope of the Feng people, Feng Nu always knew how heavy her responsibility was. She also knew how big of a blow Feng Yan's death was to the Feng people. The first time she saw Nianbing, she had a good impression of the handsome young man when Nianbing personally cooked her a pigeon meal. Although he had a deep grudge, although he had distant goals, he was so outstanding. After that, every time she saw Nian Bing, Feng Nu would be shocked to see the changes in him. She could also clearly feel the trace of sorrow in Nian Bing's heart. Both of them had no parents, so Feng Nu sympathized with Nian Bing. Her good impression of him quickly increased. But even so, Feng Nu only saw Nian Bing as a friend. She knew that she couldn't easily fall in love, especially with outsiders. She represented the future of the Feng people. In the Fire Dragon Cave, Nian Bing told Feng Nu of his love. Feng Nu suppressed the emotions in her heart and told him of her difficulties. Nian Bing didn't make things difficult for her. At the last moment, he was willing to sacrifice himself to save everyone. All of this left a deep mark in Feng Nu's heart. At that time, although she didn't know whether Nian Bing was alive or dead, Feng Nu could guess that Garamandes, the Dragon King, might not hurt Nian Bing under the temptation of food and the Dragon God's rules. At that time, she still didn't release her feelings. In her heart, her people were the most important. When she saw Nian Bing again at the Duke's mansion and saw that he had returned safely, Feng Nu's emotions won over her rationality and she threw herself into Nian Bing's arms. However, in just an instant she regained her rationality. She knew that it wouldn't benefit her or Nian Bing, so she chose to avoid him. However, she didn't expect that Elder Feng Su would send Feng Xiang to kill Nian Bing. When she heard the news of Nian Bing's death from Elder Feng Kong, the suppressed feelings in her heart finally broke through the layers of barriers and broke through all the taboos in her heart. It was only at that moment that she realized that the name Nian Bing had firmly occupied her heart. She loved Nian Bing and only had Nian Bing in her heart. However, he had already died a light death. He was killed because of her. The handsome young man who had once saved her, the man who had no parents like her, had passed away just like that. His revenge had yet to be avenged. He had also suppressed his love for her and thought of everything for her sake. However, he had died just like that. When Feng Nu woke up, she had already returned to the Feng people. Elder Feng Su had locked her in a restricted room and told her to ask Chu Li to punish her by confining her. Feng Nu indeed wanted to ask Chu Li. She understood three things. The first was her love for Nian Bing. She knew that she wouldn't be able to fall in love with another man in her life. The second was when she thought of Nian Bing, whose corpse was still in the forest. He was dead and no one even took his corpse away. No matter what, she had to bury him so that he could rest in peace. The last thing was when she thought of Nian Bing's revenge. At that moment, she decided that no matter what price she had to pay, she would avenge Nian Bing. Nian Bing's hatred was her hatred. Although Nian Bing was already dead, she swore to keep her chastity for Nian Bing. Only one person had ever escaped from the Feng people's restricted room, and that was Feng Yan. Feng Nu didn't think that she would be able to escape with her own strength. However, when her emotions were completely released, and her beautiful blue eyes were filled with blood-red tears because she thought of Nian Bing, the restriction actually laughed. The phoenix's blood tears had sent her out of the restricted room. Right now, she only wanted to find Nian Bing's corpse and bury him as soon as possible. With the strength of someone who had just entered the swordsman realm, traveling was nothing for Feng Nu. 10 days later, she had already returned to the forest where Nian Bing was killed. However, she couldn't find Nian Bing's corpse even after searching every inch of the forest. Was it eaten by a wild beast? Impossible. The forest was very close to the Ottoman Empire's capital. The ferocious beasts here had already been swept away. However, where did Nian Bing go? Could it be that he didn't die? Did the elders lie to me? With a nervous heart, Feng Nu entered Alan City. Alan City was the same as before. However, when she arrived at the entrance of the Duke's manor, she hesitated. Whether it was Yu Ruyan or the Duke of Bluefeather, neither of them were people she could fight against. Should she go in and ask them? After a moment of hesitation, Feng Nu gritted her teeth and walked towards the Duke's manor. She believed that Yu Ruyan was of the same race as her. She didn't come here to seek revenge, so she might not hurt her. Just as Phoenix Maiden Huai Bei was about to enter the Duke's mansion, the door to the Duke's mansion opened. A familiar figure entered Phoenix Maiden's eyes. "Zi Qianjian, is that you?" Feng Nu asked tentatively. Zi Qianjian was wearing a set of silver armor specially made for him. It complemented his majestic figure even more. He was about to go out to buy some things he needed, but he didn't expect to meet the person he had been thinking about for a long time. Feng knew Zi Qianjian's voice was filled with 80% excitement and 20% surprise. He walked up to the Phoenix girl. His resolute face was a bit uneasy. He didn't know what to say when he saw the Phoenix girl. "Brother Qinjian, why are you here?" Feng Nu asked in surprise. Zi Qianjian looked at Feng Nu and couldn't help but feel pain in his heart. He hadn't seen her for a few months, and Feng Nu had changed. She was much more haggard than before. Her eyes were dim, and her skin had lost its usual luster. Although she was still as beautiful as before, it was clear that she had suffered a lot from the travel. "Feng Nu, what happened to you? You look very tired. After we parted ways, my sister and I came here to join the army. I became the disciple of the Duke of Blue Feather and am now a member of the Silver Feather Knights." Became the disciple of the Duke of Blue Feather? Feng Nu was overjoyed. Since that was the case, she didn't need to enter the Duke's mansion. It saved her a lot of trouble. She hurriedly asked, "Brother Qinjian, did you see Nian Bing after that? He came here before." When Zi Qianjian heard Feng Nu mention Nian Bing, his heart couldn't help but sink. No matter how careless he was, he could feel that Feng Nu's heart wasn't with him. He sighed inwardly and said, "Of course I saw him. However, Nian Bing didn't stay here for long. He left with that dragon. When he left, my sister and I were the ones who sent him off." Feng Nu trembled. "Brother, are you sure? When did you send Nian Bing off?" Zi Qianjian thought for a moment and said the date. Feng Nu carefully calculated. It was exactly 2 days after she found out about Nian Bing's death. Her heart trembled. "Why, Elder Kong, did you lie to me? Nian Bing didn't die." "Didn't die?" Feng Nu's delicate body trembled uncontrollably. She couldn't stop her tears from flowing down. At this moment she looked so weak. She didn't look like the swordsman at all. At this moment, her heart was filled with endless longing for Nian Bing. "Feng Nu, are you all right?" Zi Qianjian looked at Feng Nu. Although he didn't understand why Feng Nu was crying, he could vaguely guess that it had something to do with Nian Bing. After all these years, he really didn't have any hope. Although the feeling of having a dead heart wasn't good, he still controlled his emotions. However, Zi Qianjian still controlled his emotions and did not reveal them. After all, both Nian Bing and the Phoenix Maiden could be considered as his sworn friends. He could only bury his love for the Phoenix Maiden deep in his heart. Feng Nu wiped away her tears and asked, "Brother Qinjian, are you sure Nian Bing is all right? Then where did he go?" Zi Qianjian nodded firmly. "He's fine. What can happen to him when he's with a dragon? That dragon still needs him to cook. I heard from Nian Bing. He seems to be going to the Huarong Empire to participate in some new magician competition. He's probably on his way. That competition won't start until a few months later." Feng Nu's beautiful eyes lit up. In an instant, the lost luster seemed to have been restored. She looked deeply at Zi Qianjian and said, "Thank you, Brother Qinjian. I'll be leaving first." Her figure flashed. She couldn't care less about shocking the world. She headed south as fast as she could. Seeing Feng Nu's disappearing figure, Zi Qianjian fell into a daze. He sighed heavily and turned to walk back to the Duke's residence. He was no longer in the mood to go shopping. "Qinjian, it's you." The door to the Duke's residence opened and a graceful figure walked out. Yu Ruyan looked so noble in her blue dress. "Greetings, mistress." Ever since Zi Qianjian heard from Duke Bluefeather that Yu Ruyan was the #1 expert of the Ottoman Empire, he was full of admiration for this mistress. Thus, his tone was very respectful. Zi Qianjian was a straightforward person. His change in expression immediately attracted Yu Ruyan's attention. Qinjian, what's wrong with you? You seem a bit unhappy. Zi Qianjian sighed softly. Mistress, I just met Feng Nu. I heard from Brother Lan Sun that Feng Nu and the others attacked you last time. Can you not pursue this matter? What? Feng Nu? Yu Ruyan trembled. Thinking of the possibility Nian Bing said, she immediately asked, Where is Feng Nu? Where is she? Zi Qianjian misunderstood Yu Ruyan's meaning and said cautiously, Mistress, please don't make things difficult for her. I think that Feng Nu doesn't mean to make things difficult for you. Yu Ruyan frowned. You silly boy, when did I say that I would make things difficult for her? Hurry and tell me where she is. I need to go immediately to talk to her about something. Zi Qianjian's concern for Feng Nu prevented him from telling the complete truth. Feng Nu has already left for a while. She might be going to find Nian Bing. Mistress, what business do you have with her? Yu Ruyan smiled bitterly. She thought to herself, if Feng Nu really is my daughter, but she doesn't enter the house, then it's really sad. With Feng Nu's abilities, it won't be easy to chase after her if I can't determine the exact direction. Forget it. Since she went to find Nian Bing, the truth will come to light. I hope they can meet soon. Nian Bing felt extremely regretful that he didn't participate in the last round of the Hualong culinary competition. It wasn't for the prize money, nor was it for the qualification to participate in the God of Cookery competition. It was because of Little Tian. As Nian Bing's biggest opponent since his debut and the user of the Yin-Yang Harmony Tai Chi hand, Nian Bing really wanted to have a fair fight with him. The reason why he chose to leave instead of going back to find Little Tian was because of time constraints. After obtaining the demon-devouring blade from the dark world, Nian Bing's thirst for power grew even stronger. To him, magic was more important than culinary skills. Therefore, he chose to arrive at Du Tian City earlier to use the remaining time he had to cultivate. At the same time, he wanted to use more time to perfect his 7 elemental culinary skills. Only then would he have a complete set of culinary skills. Only then would he be able to better compete with the Tai Chi hand. Unfortunately, he still lacked an earth elemental magical blade. However, he wasn't in a hurry now. After all, it was rare to get a treasure of that level. Nian Bing felt more and more that his luck was really good. Flying forward was completely out of the control of the terrain. In order not to attract attention, Nian Bing deliberately chose a more desolate terrain. However, it wasn't far from the official road. This way, he could fly away from the crowd and rest assured. He floated to the ground and stretched his body. He drew 2 triangles in front of his chest with his hands. The red and blue lights intertwined to form a 6-pointed star of the same origin of ice and fire. Nian Bing shouted softly. Under the guidance of his spiritual power, 6 lights flew out of his space ring one after another. The dense aura of treasures floated out. Under the control of the 6-pointed star of the same origin of ice and fire, the lights slowly revolved around Nian Bing's body. Nian Bing's heart was filled with a sense of accomplishment. He pointed his hands in front of him and pressed them down. Freeze! The 6-pointed star of the same origin of ice and fire instantly expanded and imprinted itself under Nian Bing's feet. The red and blue lights of the 6 lights instantly inserted themselves in the center of the 6-pointed star under Nian Bing's feet. The other 4 lights firmly inserted themselves around the magic array. The 6 lights shone, forming a dense light barrier around Nian Bing's body. Nian Bing smiled with satisfaction. This was the magic of the same origin of ice and fire. There wouldn't be a situation where the magic power couldn't be connected. He looked at the 6 divine blades around him. Nian Bing couldn't help but whisper, the sigh of the ice goddess, the roar of the fire god, the whisper of the wind of freedom, the dawn piercing through heaven and earth, the 6-pointed star of divine design, the eternal curse of hell. It was you who gave me such powerful magic power. You are my hope for the future. Perhaps it felt the fluctuation of Nian Bing's spiritual power. The dense treasure chi rose and became denser. With a smile, Nian Bing's eyes shone brightly. He pressed his hands down and gently patted down, triggering the dense treasure chi. Then, he stretched out his right hand with his palm facing up. The first thing that appeared was a blue ball of light. It wasn't magic, but pure magic power. The blue ball of light emitted a cold aura. Then, the blue light suddenly turned red, then green, then white, then silver, then black. The 6 colors of light alternated. The various magic elements in the air constantly revolved and rose around Nian Bing's body. Feeling the various characteristics of the magic elements during the transformation, Nian Bing was deeply immersed in it. His own ice and fire magic power were constantly strengthening in this magic array of ice and fire. The magic power consumed by flying was quickly replenished. This was his main cultivation method now. Unfortunately, this method of cultivation was too eye-catching, so it could only be done in the wilderness. Otherwise, if someone saw it, they would definitely be tempted by his 6th divine blade. In the process of cultivating magic power, Nian Bing did not forget to cultivate his spiritual power. It had become a habit of his. His spiritual power was completely released, covering a range of hundreds of feet. Even if there was only a slight movement in the wind, he would be able to feel it immediately. This way, not only was it beneficial for his spiritual power training, but at the same time, it could protect him from enemies that suddenly appeared. Light flashed, and a layer of light rose from the 6 divine blades at the same time. Nian Bing's heart suddenly had a trace of understanding. It wasn't because of magic, but because of his feelings towards cooking. After obtaining the demon-devouring blade, he felt that he hated the smell of blood. He didn't hate killing people, but he hated the smell of blood on the blade. He was a chef. If his blade had the smell of blood on it, how could he cook? The 6 divine blades were not only his magic blades, but also his kitchen knives. As a chef, it was necessary to respect his cooking utensils and the people who ate his food. At this moment, Nian Bing decided that unless it was when he was cooking, he would never let his divine blades be stained with the smell of blood. Although before today, even if his blade was used to kill enemies, it was only the light on the blade. However, from now on, he had to be extra careful. He couldn't let these divine blades become his killing weapons. They were magic blades, and magic could also be used to deal with enemies. His spiritual power activated the energy in the magic array. With a buzz, the heaviest Holy Glory blade had already jumped into Nian Bing's hands. He held the Holy Glory blade with both hands and raised it above his head. After the sacred teacher appeared, the holy aura on the Holy Glory blade became even more intense. The red and blue light of the same origin of ice and fire magic array suddenly became brighter. Nian Bing chanted, "With the dawn that penetrates the heaven and earth as the guide, bring the warm light to the earth, the pure and holy light. Please merge into one, condense between heaven and earth, and become the holy light that purifies all things." The white light suddenly rose and shot into the sky with the dawn blade as the center. The range of the light was just right to cover the magic array under Nian Bing's feet. Except for the demon-devouring blade, the other divine blades let out a cheerful sound in the holy light. Nian Bing was using the holy light to dissolve the evil aura on these divine blades. Only the demon-devouring blade emitted a layer of black fog. When it came into contact with the holy light, it made popping sound. Nian Bing didn't stop there. He returned the holy radiance blade to its original position and switched to another blade. He also cast a level 7 spell. However, he was stunned when he switched to the last blade. As a mage, he wasn't familiar with the incantations of dark magic. Although he had seen some dark magic incantations in the library before, he had never thought of using them. Furthermore, most dark magic incantations were incomplete, and the incantations were very difficult to chant. Therefore, he didn't know many dark magic incantations. He didn't know how to chant them all at once. Looking at the long and narrow demon-devouring blade in his hand, Nian Bing vaguely felt that if he wanted to truly master mimicry magic, The key wasn't whether he could obtain an earth-type blade, but whether he could truly control this demon-devouring blade. With the same origin of ice and fire as a guide, Nian Bing used 5 level 7 spells in succession. There was no problem with his mental strength, but his mana was somewhat depleted. Even for a magic shooter, continuously using such high-level spells would be a huge burden. Fortunately, Nian Bing's mental strength was extremely abundant, so he was able to hold on. Returning to the state of meditation, Nian Bing recovered his depleted mana. From the beginning to the use of magic to the final meditation, it was a complete cultivation process for Nian Bing. Every time he went through such a process, he would have some enlightenment in the final meditation, and his mana would also improve to a certain extent. For Nian Bing, there was no distinction between day and night now. Every time he flew for about 4 hours, he would find a remote place to cultivate. Then, he would get up and fly again. Occasionally, he would eat some simple food to satisfy his hunger. To him, not only did this not make him tired, but it also made him feel more and more energetic. He could clearly feel that his magic was constantly improving, especially in the perfection of the mimicry magic. Even Nian Bing himself did not know how long this cultivation process had passed, but his sense of direction was very strong. Coupled with the memories of his childhood, he could always identify the accurate direction and move forward. Chapter 95. He was much more familiar with the flight technique than he had been at the beginning. The feeling of flying in the air was wonderful. He felt the breeze in his face and looked at the birds and clouds around him. It was such a comfortable feeling. Suddenly, Nian Bing, who was flying in the air, trembled and slowed down. Although he was still far away, he could see the city. Du Tian City was located on the Du Tian Plateau. The Du Tian Plateau was the only plateau in the southern part of the Yangon continent. In the beginning, the terrain rose slowly, but halfway through, it suddenly rose. Although there were no high mountains, the air gradually thinned because of the rise in altitude. Du Tian City was located in the center of the Du Tian Plateau. It was not far from where the terrain had just risen. From here, one could have a bird's eye view of the Du Tian Plateau. The geographical location was excellent. If an enemy could attack here, they only needed to use the height of the plateau. With the powerful cavalry of the Huarong Empire, they would be able to easily disperse the enemy's camp. Even if it was just a defense, the geographical advantage would make the huge Du Tian City as stable as a rock. Du Tian City was built on a very large area. It was known as the first city in the continent. There were 50,000 soldiers in the city, 20,000 of which were cavalry. The Order of the Flaming Lion, which was the most elite force in the entire Yangon continent, was among them. There were 10,000 people in total. They were the most powerful force in the Huarong Empire. The other 10,000 were the backup force of the Order of the Flaming Lion. They were called the Flaming Lion Cavalry Regiment. Although they were not as strong as the Order of the Flaming Lion, they could be their backup force. They were the best of the best. The Order of the Flaming Lion was the most elite cavalry regiment in the continent. At the same time, they were treated the best. Raising such a regiment was equivalent to raising 3 fully equipped heavy cavalry regiments. However, everyone knew that a single Flaming Lion was enough to destroy 3 heavy cavalry regiments. In front of Du Tian City was a moat that was 30 meters wide. The moat surrounded the city. The structure of Du Tian City was very strange. It wasn't like an ordinary city with 4 gates. It only had gates in the north and south directions. The whole city was rectangular in shape. It was narrow in the north-south direction and long in the east-west direction. Thus, the north and south walls were extremely wide. There were 8 arches on each side of the walls, which were 4 feet high and 3 feet wide. These arches could be connected to the other side of the moat through an iron cable suspension bridge. The 150-foot-high walls looked extremely grand. The walls were 1.5 feet thick, and there was a powerful defensive magic array on them. The magicians took turns to preside. Looking at the magnificent city below, Nian Bing's eyes unknowingly became moist. I'm back. I'm back. This was his hometown. What was laughable was that he was representing another country this time. He had finally returned to the Huarong Empire, the place where his father had left so sadly. Dad, don't worry. Nian Bing won't embarrass you. In the distance, Nian Bing had already landed on the ground. He didn't want to be discovered by the soldiers on the lookout. Only 4 of the 8 gates in the north of Du Tian City were open. All 8 gates would only be open during wartime. Perhaps it was because the most elite troops of the Huarong Empire were stationed here. There was also a central army camp not far from the city. There was no defense at the gates of Du Tian City. There were only a few soldiers standing guard symbolically at each entrance. Nian Bing tidied up his ordinary clothes and strode towards the gates. As he walked, he calculated the time. There was still 1.5 months before the new magicians from the 5 countries. He could use this 1.5 months to familiarize himself with the environment of his hometown and make the final push for magic. In this competition, Nian Bing's goal was very simple. That was to defeat Qianhuan Bingyun, who represented the Ice God Tower. As for becoming the champion, it wasn't that important to him. Nian Bing firmly believed that even if Qianhuan Bingyun's magic power was higher than his, he would still have a chance with the characteristics of the same source of ice and fire. After successfully entering Du Tian City, the width of the city was reflected in the road. Even the second largest city in the Ice Moon Empire, Ice Snow City, didn't have half the width of Du Tian City's roads. The roads were tidily paved with bluestone. Other than the many shops on both sides of the road, there was a large tree at regular intervals. The air in the city was very comfortable. Although it was a plateau, because the Azure River passed through the Huarong Empire, and because it was in the south, the air here was very humid. Even though Nian Bing didn't have a good impression of Du Tian City, he couldn't help but admit that it was a very suitable city to live in. Compared to when he left as a child, this city looked much cleaner. There weren't any yelling noises on the streets like in other cities. Although there were many people, the city still seemed very quiet. Hey, little prince, why are you dressed like this? Where are you going today? A surprised voice sounded. Nian Bing turned around and saw a middle-aged man in luxurious clothes looking at him in surprise. Was he greeting him? Nian Bing's face revealed a surprised expression. There was a plum blossom symbol on the left chest of the middle-aged man in luxurious clothes. Memories of his childhood came back to him. The plum blossom symbol represented the Plum family of the Huarong Empire. This family was above average in the Huarong Empire. The head of this family was a hereditary count. Obviously, this middle-aged man was a noble. When the middle-aged man in luxurious clothes saw Nian Bing looking at him in surprise, he walked up and said affectionately, "Little prince, although you're wearing ordinary clothes, your temperament can't be changed. My little sister has always been thinking about you. If you have time, come to our place. In a few days, we'll host the new magician competition. I think you'll definitely be the final champion. At that time, His Majesty will confer you a high position. Don't forget your big brother Plum." Nian Bing's mind raced. Suddenly, he understood something. A faint smile appeared on his face. "Hello, big brother Plum. I still have some things to do. Let's talk another day." The middle-aged man in luxurious clothes hurriedly said, Okay. Little prince, you can go ahead. If you have time, come to my place as a guest. Don't forget." After he finished speaking, he laughed and turned to leave. Standing in place, Nian Bing's heart surged with all kinds of thoughts. He didn't move for a long time. His right hand clenched into a fist. It seemed that he would also participate in the new magician competition. However, he would represent the Huarong Empire. Thinking of this, Nian Bing suddenly realized something. His eyes swept over the surrounding shops. While the passers-by weren't paying attention, he took out his bamboo hat from his space ring and put it on his head. He strode into a clothing store. Sir, what would you like to order? A shop assistant politely asked. Nian Bing said, I want to buy a gorgeous piece of clothing that symbolizes my status. At the same time, I also want to buy some gold thread and needles. Do you have them here? Money isn't a problem. The shop assistant smiled and said, Of course we do. Please come with me. You can choose from the store. Under the guidance of the shop assistant, Nian Bing followed him into the clothing store. After a while, he picked out a red and gold embroidered robe. The robe was made from the best quality fabric. It was soft to the touch and the size was just right. Although Nian Bing spent 2 purple coins, he was still very satisfied. He also bought 2 needles and a spool of gold thread before leaving the store. With these things, it was enough for him to complete his plan. Walking back to the street, Nian Bing found an ordinary inn to stay in. After the shop assistant left, he took out the robe. He immediately took out the robe and looked at the red and gold robe. He muttered to himself, If I remember correctly, you liked red and gold when you were young. This robe should be able to match your status. As he said this, he inserted the gold thread into the needle. Needlework was something that only women knew how to do. However, Nian Bing and Cha Ji had lived together for so many years. Their clothes were all mended by him, so this wasn't a problem for him. After carefully thinking about it, Nian Bing flattened the left chest of the robe and carefully began his embroidery work. As he embroidered, he also recalled the symbol from before. He could even use a knife technique like the rain dragons dance with ease, so simple embroidery wasn't a problem for him at all. After a while, a fist-sized golden lion head symbol appeared on the left chest of the robe. Putting away the needle and thread, Nian Bing gently stroked the golden lion symbol. He sighed softly and said, It's at least 80 to 90% similar. That's enough. After all, who would check the symbol on the little prince's body? Putting the robe into his space ring, Nian Bing sank into his memories. Everything from his childhood was still so clear. Oh, it hurts. Big brother, it hurts. A 5-year-old child fell to the ground and immediately cried out in pain. Nian Bing, why are you so careless? Come, quickly get up. Your knee is injured. Come, I'll carry you to see a doctor. A slightly older child hurriedly helped him up. Although the older child was slightly taller than the younger child, their appearances were actually 80 to 90% similar. They both had the same blonde hair and the same blue eyes. Big brother, you're so good. Why are you so good to me? Idiot, because I'm your big brother. Our father is the closest brother, and we are also the closest brothers. This will never change. Nian Bing, I will always protect you. Big brother. Her eyes were a little warm in the memories. Nian Bing still clearly remembered everything at that time. He was older than her by half a year. Among all the siblings, he was the only one who was truly good to her. Perhaps it was because his father and her father were twins. Big brother, I'm back, but I can't go see you. Big brother, are you okay? Perhaps our web page is only on the magician tournament. Restraining the emotions in her heart, Nian Bing stood up, put on the bamboo hat and walked out of the inn. He still needed one more thing. Walking out of the inn, Nian Bing quickly found a shop that specialized in selling magic items. No matter which country, magic item shops had the best business. Of course, if one didn't have some strength, wanting to open such a shop was easier said than done. Guest, what would you like to order? We have a variety of magic gems and magic items here, especially the best self-defense items. There are certainly things that you will be satisfied with. Nian Bing looked around the shop. There was a circle of counters in the shop. Behind the counter, there were all kinds of magic items hanging on the wall. With his spiritual power, he could easily detect whether the magic aura on these magic items was strong or not. But, even if there were really the best items here, it was not what he needed. Moreover, how could the best items appear so casually? I want a magic item that can change my appearance. I don't know if you have it at this time? Nian Bing asked. The shop assistant was stunned for a moment and hurriedly said, Sir, you also know that these special magic items are extremely expensive. Nian Bing indifferently said, I'm just asking if you have it. Money is not a problem. As long as the item is suitable, the price is negotiable. The shop assistant somewhat regretfully said, I'm really sorry. We originally had one here. Unfortunately, it has just been chosen by a young lady. Perhaps you can come back in a few days. Nian Bing frowned slightly as he thought to himself, it seems like I have no choice but to choose another shop. Just as he was thinking about it, the curtains in the shop were suddenly lifted up. A young girl in red walked out from inside. Beside her was a middle-aged man who looked like a shopkeeper. At this time, Nian Bing was preparing to leave. The young girl came out from the inside and saw him. Her eyes flashed with a trace of joy. Her figure flashed and was already behind Nian Bing. Nian Bing's heart was alarmed. The bamboo hat on his head had already disappeared, revealing his long golden hair. I knew it was you. Humph, I can still recognize you even if you change your clothes. Quickly tell me, did you secretly follow this young lady? The voice of the young girl in red carried a bit of joy. Nian Bing turned around to look at her. He did not know this young girl. The young girl's appearance was extremely beautiful and tall. She was smiling sweetly at him. He could not help but sigh in his heart. Another one who admitted her mistake. He could only brace himself and said, Of course I'm not here to look for you. I'm here to buy a magic item. The young girl pouted her small mouth and said, Humph, don't give me that. I don't believe you. What kind of magic items don't you have at home? Do you still need to buy them? The shop assistant at the side saw that the young girl knew Nian Bing. He hurriedly said, Miss Enoch, this gentleman is indeed here to buy a magic item. The item he wants to buy is the one that you just picked. Enoch looked at Nian Bing in surprise and said, Good, are you going somewhere to steal a kiss? Otherwise, why are you covering your face? Nian Bing found it funny and said, Me? Am I that kind of person? On the other hand, what are you buying this magic item for? According to your logic, aren't you going to? Enoch's face turned red. She looked at Nian Bing with some surprise and said, Why are you so talkative today? But, I like you like this. It's not good to be so cold all day. All right, I'm leaving. I'm warning you, don't tell anyone that I snuck out. Otherwise, humph, you know. I'll give it to you. Remember, you owe me a favor. As she said this, she threw a brocade box to Nian Bing. She gave him a deep look and turned around to leave. Nian Bing stared blankly at Enoch leaving. He secretly smiled bitterly. It seems that the identity of an older brother is really useful. After we grow up, are we still so alike? First, it was that brother May's little sister. Now, it's this Enoch. Older brother. How many female friends do you have? Nian Bing asked the shop assistant. How much is this thing? How do I use it? As he said this, he opened the brocade box. Inside was an inconspicuous brooch. The brooch was gourd-shaped and was inlaid with 2 dark green gems. The magic fluctuation was not strong, but Nian Bing could clearly feel that inside this brooch, there were 2 strange magic arrays that he had never seen before. In his previous knowledge, no matter what kind of magic array it was, the foundation was the magic symbols. But the magic array inside this brooch was obviously not the same. Whether it was the magic array's composition or the strange symbols inside, it made Nian Bing very surprised. The shop assistant respectfully said, Sir, Miss Enoch has already paid for this brooch. Since she gave it to you, it is yours. I'll briefly explain how to use it. The most precious part of this brooch is that it doesn't need to be a magician to use it. You only need to wear it on your chest. When you need to use it, just lightly press the 2 gems on it. The slightly bigger one will change your appearance. The smaller one will change the color of your hair. As for how it works, I don't know. However, every time it is used, the magic inside needs to be replenished. Any type of magician can replenish it. You need to ask a magician to help you. The next time it works, it is full of magic. Looking at this small brooch, Nian Bing curiously asked, "Then how much is this brooch? I want to know how big of a favor I owe." The shopkeeper who sent Enoch out came back. When he heard Nian Bing's question, he smiled and said, "Such a precious brooch. The price is naturally not low. After all, sometimes changing your appearance can save your life. It is priced at 300 purple coins, but because Miss Enoch is our shop's VIP, we have a 30% discount. The total is 310 purple coins." Nian Bing sucked in a breath of cold air. 210 purple coins, that was 2,100 gold coins. This favor is really not small. It seems. This Miss Enoch's status is not low. Otherwise, how could she easily give away such a precious thing? Brother, it seems that she is really in love with you. Thinking of this, Nian Bing could not help but smile. Using the identity of brother. I actually got such a big bargain. Back at the inn, Nian Bing ate a simple meal. Although the food in the inn was not bad, for him, it was only enough to satisfy his hunger. It could not be considered as enjoyment. When he returned to the room, it was just afternoon. Nian Bing sat cross-legged on the bed and began his daily meditation. Unfortunately, after entering the city, he could no longer use high-level magic to consume his magic. That was the best way to practice. His spiritual force was released as usual. The ice and fire magic in his body quickly condensed the magic elements in the air. Soon, he entered a meditative state. With the increase of his strength, unless there was a huge breakthrough, Nian Bing could accurately control the time of his meditation. When he woke up from his meditation, it was just at night. He opened his eyes. Feeling the surging magic in his body, Nian Bing's eyes revealed a hint of desire. He was a little nervous. Do I really have to go today? Go? Since I'm back and have decided to look for the ancient books of magical formations, I can't hesitate anymore. I have to face it sooner or later. As long as I'm careful, I shouldn't be discovered. Thinking of this, he resolutely got out of bed and took out the gorgeous robe that he had just bought from the space ring. After putting on the robe, Nian Bing lowered his head and looked at the golden lion embroidered on his chest. Suddenly, the blood in his body felt like it was boiling. I should have such an identity. Unfortunately, as early as 10 years ago, he was no longer recognized. Nian Bing did not go through the door. He quietly opened the window and cast a blizzard spell on himself. He quickly rushed into the air and headed deep into the city. The place he was looking for was not mysterious. It was a place that almost everyone in the city knew. Yes, even if someone did not know the location of the imperial palace, it was impossible that they did not know where the state preceptor of the Huarong Empire, Prince Rong, who was also known as the Flaming Lion King, was. It could be said that at least half of the Huarong Empire's achievements could be attributed to the harmonious families. In the past, it was the elder Rong who led his own people and family to form a cavalry of 1,000 people. With his powerful fire magic, he helped the current Emperor Hua Tian of the Huarong Empire conquer the country. It was often said that as long as Prince Rong was there, the Huarong Empire would always be the most powerful country in the mainland. For decades, Prince Rong had been in charge of the Huarong Empire's military. Thanks to his efforts, the Huarong Empire's military had reached its peak. Prince Rong and Prime Minister Su Yu were the greatest contributors to the Huarong Empire. Of course, Emperor Hua Tian was also a wise monarch. In the past, when the Huarong Empire entered its golden age, someone once suggested to him that Prince Rong's power was too great. He controlled the entire country's military and could launch a coup at any time. Those people who suggested to him were all killed. Hua Tian once said that the Huarong Empire was named Huarong because half of the Rong family was from it. When the Huarong Empire was first established, the position of emperor was given to him by Prince Rong. If Prince Rong wanted to be emperor, there was no need for a coup. As long as Prince Rong was alive, the military power of the Huarong Empire would always be under his control. When Prince Rong heard the rumor, He laughed and said, "Hua Tian and I are not only emperor and minister, but also brothers. What's the use of a villain trying to sow discord?" From afar, Nian Bing could already see the huge courtyard. The fiery red courtyard walls and the courtyard, which was the size of a small city, were filled with a sinister aura. Nian Bing's eyes turned moist. He thought of his parents and his own background. At the same time, he also thought of his own surname. "My surname is Rong. I'm Nian Bing. Dad, can you see me? I'm back." Prince Rong Yen, was Nian Bing's grandfather. Nian Bing knew too much about the relationship between his grandfather and Emperor Hua Tian. Although his father took him away from the Rong family, his father's respect for his grandfather had never diminished. 50 years ago, the Huarong Empire didn't exist on the mainland. It was Hua Tian, Rong Yen, and Su Yu who worked together and built the empire with the strength of their respective families. At that time, the Rong family was the most powerful family. However, Rong Yen knew that he wasn't suitable to be emperor, so he gave the position of emperor to Hua Tian. That was how the Huarong Empire came into being. Rong Yen had 6 wives, who gave birth to 7 sons and 6 daughters. Among them, Rong Yen loved his eldest and second sons the most. They were twins. In order to remember that he, Hua Tian, and Su Yu created the Huarong Empire together, Rong Yen named his twin sons Rong Yu. Rong Tian fell in love with the direct disciple of the ice goddess priestess. Nian Bing's mother, Bing Ling. Rong Yen, on the other hand, was a powerful fire archmage. He had always been at odds with the ice goddess priestess, so how could he allow his son to date the disciple of the ice goddess priestess? Similarly, Nian Bing's mother was also reprimanded by the ice goddess priestess, who forcibly separated the loving couple. However, they didn't know that Rong Tian and Bing Ling were in love with each other. In order to protect their child, Bing Ling sneaked out of the Ice God Tower and went to the Huarong Empire to look for Rong Tian. Rong Yen loved Rong Yu and Rong Tian very much, so he locked Rong Tian up for a few days before releasing him. When Bing Ling came to Du Tian City and saw the person he loved deeply, Rong Tian didn't dare to say anything. He secretly arranged for Bing Ling to stay in a secluded courtyard. Every day, other than the routine family practice, he would go to the courtyard to meet Bing Ling privately. Although everything was done in secret, they lived very happily. Unfortunately, their happiness was short-lived. Less than 2 months after Bing Ling gave birth to Nian Bing, a disaster suddenly occurred. The ice goddess priestess had always viewed the ice spirit as her successor, but she never thought that the disciple she was most proud of would run away so quietly. In her fury, the ice goddess priestess mobilized the entire ice god tower to search for the ice spirit's whereabouts. Finally, 2 months after Nianbing was born, she found the capital city. The appearance of the ice goddess priestess in the capital of the Huarong Empire immediately attracted the attention of the Fire Lion King, Rong Yen. Rong Yen led his 2 younger brothers and fought the ice goddess priestess with the power of 3 archmages. The battle was earth-shattering. The 4 of them fought for 6 hours in the outskirts of Du Tian City. In the end, the ice goddess priestess, who had become a god-sent master, won and defeated Rong Yen and his 2 younger brothers. That battle not only raised the reputation of the ice goddess priestess, but also humiliated Rong Yen. Bing Ling was taken away by the ice goddess priestess, and Rong Tian was also imprisoned in the Rong family. He painstakingly raised Nian Bing. After this incident, Rong Yen was very disappointed in his second son. He never saw Rong Tian again, and handed him over to Rong Yu. Both Rong Tian and little Nian Bing were not tolerated by the Rong family. If it wasn't for Rong Yu's protection, Rong Tian would have suffered a lot. At that time, other than taking care of his son, Rong Tian desperately practiced magic every day, hoping that he could save his wife one day. However, magic couldn't be learned quickly. After almost going crazy several times, Rong Yu couldn't stand it anymore. He helped Rong Tian steal the Rong family's most valuable treasure, the Stone of Fire God, and secretly sent Nian Bing and Rong Tian out of the city. At that time, Nian Bing was only 6 years old. After leaving the Rong family, Rong Tian didn't feel good. Rong Yen knew that Rong Tian and Rong Yu had stolen the stone of fire god. Not only did he angrily punish Rong Yu, he also sent people to chase Rong Tian and his son for thousands of miles. Fortunately, Rong Tian was strong and smart, so he wasn't caught after hiding here and there. Rong Tian was the only one who knew the pain. His wife was taken away, and he couldn't return to his home. He endured the pain and took Nian Bing to wander around the continent. With the help of the stone of fire god, he finally reached the realm of Archmage. Later, he accidentally heard that the Ice Goddess Priestess was going to hold an Ice Goddess Priestess inheritance ceremony for Bing Ling. Once this ceremony was held, Bing Ling would be completely purified by her master, the Ice Goddess Priestess, using the divine power of the Ice Goddess. Not only would she regain her virginity, but she would also forget everything that happened in the past, just like a newborn baby. Rong Tian couldn't bear it anymore. How could he watch his beloved wife forget about him and his son? Therefore, when Nian Bing was 10 years old, he brought his son up to the Ice God Tower. The battle in the Ice God Tower didn't take too long. Although Rong Tian's talent was outstanding, even the Flaming Lion King wasn't a match for the Ice Goddess Priestess, let alone him. When Rong Tian was about to die in the hands of the Ice Goddess Priestess, Bing Ling exploded. She broke through the shackles of the seal and saved Rong Tian from her master's hands. However, she was very clear that she and Rong Tian couldn't escape no matter what. During the crisis, she and Rong Tian stuffed the Ice Goddess Stone and the Fire God's Stone respectively to Nian Bing. Then, they exploded with their most powerful magic to cover for Nian Bing's escape using a spatial magic scroll. Floating in the air, Nian Bing recalled everything that happened to his parent. His tears had already soaked through his clothes. At this moment, his heart was filled with longing for his parents. Oh heavens! Why did you do this to our family? Dad, Mom, and we didn't ask for too much. We just wanted to live a peaceful life. However, such a small request is really too extravagant for us. Damn it, what is God? What is heaven? Everything is fake. If I had the power to control everything, everything would be under my feet. With a heart full of hatred, Nian Bing suddenly withdrew his aura and rushed down to King Rong's estate at the fastest speed possible. Could he successfully sneak into the Rong mansion's library? Darkness, endless darkness, and an evil aura filled the entire Nothing Cave. Although this place was full of yin qi, it was extremely dry. Dad, am I very powerful? I even caught the Dark Witch back. Dad, you have to reward me. Yu was jumping around in the cave excitedly. The vampire Ping Chao stood in the distance with his head lowered. He had an extremely respectful expression.